Welcome to, believe it or not, the 100th episode of A Life in Film.
This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story?
It's 10 years since Elaine Constantine took a gamble and cast me and Josh in her feature film debut, Northern Soul. This episode is a celebration of this project, which is very close to my heart. In fear of the intro being almost as long as the episode, I will just say that we chat to not only the cast, but the dream team behind the camera. There may even be a few surprises in there, including Steve Coogan, Lisa Stansfield, and Northern Soul legend Keb Darge, to name a few. And the woman that put her blood, sweat and tears into this film. Writer, director, producer and photographer Elaine Constantine. For the full list of guests, see the episode chapter breakdown in the description.
It was a craze that first took hold in the north of England in the 1970s. Northern Soul was all about the music, the clothes, and some pretty flamboyant dance moves.
And now it looks set for a cultural revival thanks to a new film released this week, which is already an unexpected hit. The low-budget film was originally due to be screened at just a handful of cinemas. Now, though, it is rolling out across the country.
Breakfast Leah Belita has been finding out more.
Venues in Wigan, Manchester and Blackpool. The film's director, Elaine Constantine, remortgaged her home to fund the project, and fans turned to online sites like Our Screen, which helps people to influence what's played at local cinemas, changing everything.
The film was expected to have a limited release, with just a few select venues showing Northern Soul, which is out on Friday. Now 120 cinemas will screen the film nationwide.
Do you want to start at the beginning then?
Yeah, so like in terms of you obviously way before, just for the audience, they know obviously Northern Soul, you wrote and directed that, but way before that, and you still do photography to this day. But how did that begin? Like obviously you were from up north, and how did you move to London and get into photography? How did that all begin?
So I was working in a college as a demonstrator for photography, which meant that I would teach graphic design, fashion and 3D design students how to do very basic photography, like, load a camera, take pictures, develop, and then learn how to print. So I would do that with literally hundreds of students every year as a demonstrator, which is somewhere between a lecturer and a technician. And it was I really liked being around the young crowd and that, because I was only 20, I was probably 23 when I started that job, and I was about 26 when I left it. But in that 3.5, 4 years I was there, I could count maybe two. I probably went through taking the basic photography stages through 2,000 students or something. It was insane. Wow. Every single day was a new student from some different campus in Manchester, like a new group of students. So I was teaching them basic photography again and again and again and again. And then at coming up to sort of a couple of months before the academic year ended, I would do fashion pictures for the fashion students, and they'd model their clothes. So that's kind of what got me into get involved in fashion photography in a way. Although I wasn't necessarily that bothered about fashion, I was more interested in the photography element of it. And that's what kind of got me interested in getting out of that job and coming to London and working for Nick Knight. I moved to London because I got a job assisting him.
Oh wow! And what sort of age were you around that then? Would that be like sort of late 20s?
7. So Nick Knight was like one of the highest paid photographers on the planet at that point. And working as his first assistant was such a scary prospect. And I got the job because we had like massive things in common. Like we'd both been really into reggae and soul music and into the kind of suede look and the mod thing. So kind of got the job on the basis of that. So basically I got this job working for Nick Knight, and they were training me up as his first assistant. So they had someone doing a handover who'd done a lot of high-end assisting before. So I literally moved to London. I gave up that job. They were really shocked. They were like, we thought you were settled for life. And I was like, oh my God, no, I've got to go. I've just got to go. So I left Manchester and moved to London, and it was the biggest baptism of fire I've ever had in my life. It's really scary. And within like a couple of weeks, I was able to sort of erect a column tripod and a 10x8 camera and use like massive power packs with flashes, the whole shebang, you know. And it was really scary, but I had to learn on the job very, very fast. I mean, I've been doing minute versions of that for a long time, but I needed to get to that level to go, right, I'm ready to go out on my own and do this thing, get this career up and running.
It's funny, I can't imagine you being intimidated, but obviously you were like a young sort of in your mid sort of to late 20s, and it's this intimidation. Huh?
You can't imagine me being servile.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. But everyone's got to start somewhere, haven't they?
Yeah, I was a different person back then, you know. The head I've got now. So, yeah, it was really scary, because it was like, you know, I was doing student fashion shoots, and then next minute I'm jettisoned into you know, global Lancome campaigns, and you got Isabella Rossellini sitting in front of the camera. You know, so it was it's very, the stakes were high, put it that way. If I'd have fucked things up, like if I'd loaded the dark slide wrong, or it was really bad.
But he obviously championed you and obviously guided you kind of towards really where you are.
I mean, I didn't last as long as I would have liked to, but there was some kind of complications in the mix that meant that I kind of didn't do my full apprenticeship. But I was out of there within about 8 months, and I was already hitting the Face magazine in ID with a portfolio, and they were hiring me straight away.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't all like, yeah, because there was, you know, like some of the pictures were that big in the magazine. You couldn't even see what they were. But everyone who starts like that has to go up that ladder and show that they can go to a venue or go to a talent and get amazing pictures, and then you get covers and you get big editorial spreads. But you couldn't just go jump straight up. I mean, I could name some people who've done that, bastards. Yeah, you couldn't just do that, especially if you had a voice like mine, you know.
Well, it's funny not to. I don't want to jump ahead. Sorry.
Accent, not voice. And voice.
I don't want to jump ahead, but I want to just quickly mention that we met on it was a photo shoot, and I remember doing my homework on you before I met you, and kind of looking up your photographs, and they have a very particular look and style. Was that something that did you find that early on, or is that something that kind of evolved over time?
I would say after I met Nick Knight, it kind of really came together. But when I look back at pictures that I'd done years before at the fashion college, like there's a picture of some girls pushing a pram, and it looks very similar to the pictures of the girls on the bikes that has followed me around forever, and
yeah,
famous picture. So I would say that because of my character and the things that I liked, I was already honing that desire, let's say, because I loved photo documentary. That's what really got me into photography in the first place. So I was pushing this idea of, you know, creating stuff that looked like social documentary, which is very different to how Nick works. But I think working for Nick was brilliant because it kind of got me on a level where I mastered the sort of technology of it. So I had suddenly had both things, had this kind of northern upbringing, which I'd, fantasized about being a Penny Smith or a Shirley Bay coach, two women who were more into the sort of documentary photography. And then when I sort of came to London, or a bit before that, I saw that people like Corinne Day and Ellen von Unworth, David Sims, all these photographers were like doing stuff that kind of had hints of what I was interested in. So it all sort of came together when I got to London and started working for The Face, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always from the pictures I've seen of yours over the years, including like even the Northern Soul poster, all these things, even when we did Jack Wills, there's always a form of motion, and it's always like there's always something to kind of look at in the pictures, something to like see with someone doing something or jump. There's always like motion in them, isn't there? And then that's exactly what the picture was when we met. It was me jumping.
That's right.
Which is, I mean, now I look back at it and it kind of makes sense. But I remember going and doing that job and thinking, this is such a random thing and it's such a chance.
Yeah, there was something about you that when I was working with you, it was timing as much as it was anything, because I was probably, draft 5 into this Northern Soul script that I'd sort of been fantasizing about shooting one day. And because the brief that I had to nail was about having a teenage lad leaping in the air, when I looked through the camera, I didn't see you anymore. I saw the character that I'd been writing about because of the timing and because of so many other elements. But there was also something about your discipline in becoming, that exact physical shape that I needed, and your energy levels and your enthusiasm and your professionalism. And I just thought, God, I don't know, I'll just ask him if he's interested in doing anything like this. And that, it was, in a way, it was luck that I met you then, because I could have picked somebody who might not have been able to embody that,
That's such a mad
like a
moment of chance.
Random bit
for me anyway. Like, it's kind of crazy, because I remember thinking as well, I hadn't done that much at that point. I think it was 18 or 19 and coming out, and I was, just one of my very first jobs. So coming out and doing photos with you, I was like nervous, and I wanted to sort of do well, and I wanted to like do it right. And I had this image of what a photographer would be, and it wasn't. You were just such a normal, down to earth person, and I had this image of like, you think of like a movie with a photographer who's like an asshole. That's the image I had. I guess kind of David Bailey was my image in my head of who would be taking the photographs. And then I just remember thinking, God, you're so like, we got on well, and you were just a normal person. And I think and that was what was nice. We kind of just got on, and I didn't feel nervous anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Good to know. Good
and I guess that's what photographers do, isn't it? They put people at ease, not only take the photos, but put them at ease.
That, by all accounts, I've never met David Bailey, but he's absolutely hilarious, because some of my team have worked with him, like over the years. I've worked with different hair and makeup people, but the ones that have worked, he's just like a kind of stand-up comedian all day apparently, and he just has people rolling around. But I know what you mean about that. Like, I have assisted a few photographers in my time, and some of them just get really nervous on the job, and that kind of that kind of drips down. So the assistants are scared, they're scared, the assistants are scared, and then there's this kind of atmosphere around the shoot that you must disturb anyone and you must do what you're told. And I think that maybe because I've been in environments like that, and I've also shot myself, many times before I assisted, I knew that if the kind of images I wanted to create were not this kind of graphic image of a person sitting still, they were pictures of people being alive. So in order to get that, I knew that I just had to be myself and try not to be nervous and try to have a laugh, you know, create an environment that doesn't look too professional or too, what's the word? Disciplined, you know.
Yeah, I just remember thinking, oh, this is really nice. I'm really enjoying this, and I don't feel stressed. And funny enough, I played David Bailey last year, so I had to do a lot of homework on what he was like. What a crazy character he was. To go back to where we were talking about the shoot, which I think was it for Eon Electricity, Elaine?
I think it might have been, actually.
I don't know where that's even come out of my mind. I was like,
it might have been.
I think it was. I'm gonna have to find the picture because that'd be hilarious to put on it. But so around that time, you said you'd done 5 drafts of Northern Soul by that point.
I've got no idea. Do you know what year it was I met you?
Well, I was 18, 19, so it must have been 2008, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
2007, 2008.
Trying to figure this script out, maybe already for at least 5 years when I met you.
Wow.
Only because I can't actually put a date on it, but I remember thinking at a certain point in my career that because I'd been able to somehow capture a natural smile and I was doing fashion, that it suddenly became a cul-de-sac. And so I wasn't being challenged in fashion anymore. Or in portraiture or whatever, or documentary I was doing. There was no challenge. Everything had just kind of zeroed into this smile and everybody wanted it. Then at a certain point, it got very successful as a photographer, and only the clients that I was working, clients on that level were only interested in smiles. So and I couldn't control the talent, so I didn't have a choice. So it wasn't like I went out and went, right, I'm gonna get these people to be in my pictures, who normally, when I was in the lower levels, I could just pick and choose. But at a certain level of kind of, you know, success, they would just go, you are using these people. And then I would spend hours going, oh, smile. And it was just, I don't know, it just got a bit boring for me because I couldn't get people to smile. I didn't want to get people smiling. And so, you know, what really appealed to me was film, and what I really loved about my sort of life at that point was going to soul all-nighters and listening to that music. And so the two things sort of became an obsession in a way. Yeah.
And you were going to all-nighters in London, were you, at the time?
Yeah, that would get me through shooting, because I'd be thinking, well, I have to do this. This is my day job, which isn't a bad job. It's bloody amazing, but it's lost its interesting part that I had in it, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Because obviously writing a script over many, many years, several drafts, I mean, I know what that's like. It's an absolute nightmare. But like, when did you get to the point where you went, okay, cool, this script, I'm gonna make this now? Like, what was the step to be like, right, I'm gonna send this to someone, or I'm gonna let someone see what I've actually written here?
I mean, you just know when something's ready, don't you? You know, I think the experience of writing for me is I'll write something and go, yeah, that's good. Come back to it a couple of days later and go, no, it's not good. It needs shaping in this way, and then it needs that, and so I got to a point where I come back to it and go, that actually reads well, you know, with some hindsight. So yeah, I guess it was that moment. But it'd been through so many different kind of incantations and sorry, is that the right word, incantation? Anyway,
sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds all right, doesn't it? But yeah,
incarnations.
Incarnations.
Incantations is a magic thing, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I'd been on this thing called the Writers Boot Camp, which was like a very early online learning thing. And through that, I'd met like a tutor in America. And I'd even done like a year with him where every month I would send him a draft and then I would do a call and he'd tell me what he thought of it. And he was essentially teaching me how to be a screenwriter for 3-act structure. And he was really great. So, his opinion was very important to me at that point. When I finally had got that sort of almost shooting script ready, he read it and said it's really good. It's really good. I didn't think we'd get to this, but we've got to this.
Oh wow. And that was the first thing you'd written? You hadn't written any shorts or anything like that first? It was.
I had a stab at a couple of shorts, yeah, but nothing that I felt as passionate about as this, really. Yeah,
that's pretty mad to like to write. I know obviously it took many years and there was many incarnations or cantations of it. But it's pretty amazing that was the first feature that you wrote and it got made and then it got nominated for a BAFTA. It got all these things. Like, that's pretty nuts. Like, do you ever think, holy shit, that's mad. That is mad.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think through the process as it was coming at me. It was more, it just happened because I'm quite an obsessive character. So, I get into a complete wormhole on things and don't come out. And then there are stages of that wormhole. And I guess that was Northern Soul, the process,
Friends with it all. You wrote that?
Just told me.
Are you into Northern Soul?
Yeah.
Wigan Casino.
Thousands of teenagers dance the night away.
We can start our own club. I can see myself up here. Dance floor full of fit birds, queue a mile long, excited.
Regret this, Clark.
It's time for some real ammunition.
There's many years for me and Josh, obviously, learning to dance and all the things. Learning the accent for me and all these things that we did. But you obviously put your trust in us to be able to pull this off and actually, be in the film, be the leads. But that process of trying to find the 2 lead actors, everything else that comes with that, where do you even begin? Because you've got a finished script, but I remember we started doing the dance lessons years before, the film was greenlit, before there was any funding. It was kind of one thing at a time, I guess. Were you kind of just making it up as you went along and just thinking, I need to get to this finish point? I
guess if you think about when I went onto that first, day of shooting on Northern Soul, I'd probably done 1,000 shoots. And in that time, all the successful shoots that I think worked and something interesting came out of them was when I felt confident that I had the right people who were going to collaborate with me and get what I wanted. And so the chances of someone who was an A-lister coming down for a couple of days beforehand and then jumping into those characters, for me, just felt terrifying. And also, it was an indie film, so I wasn't going to get that opportunity anyway. I was first timer, indie film, modest budget. So it just felt right that the people who were going to play these parts, you two and Antonia, although Antonia was a slightly different situation because she didn't have the run-up you had. However, she had a big run-up as an actor, didn't she, before that?
I remember reading the script and being like, this is exactly the sort of thing that I want to do. I feel like loads of people are going to be in the running for this. Loads of people are going to be wanting to do a film like this. It's just like the perfect, UK indie that's kind of just interesting. I just remember when we were doing those big dance numbers, I remember Elaine being like, I've invited all the real Soulies to come. they're all going to be sitting up
Pressure.
at the top watching to make sure that you're authentic, and they will tell you if you're and I just remember going and being like, oh my God, like there's nothing more, you know, like apart from just, you know, wanting to get, I mean, to be honest, it was brilliant because you just wanted to get it right. You wanted it to be as authentic as it could be, and you knew that like you were going to be told if you weren't. So that was brilliant. I just remember like the detail that had gone into it, walking into that costume, like that huge costume room, and just like all of the costumes that have been collected over the time, you know, for like the essays and all of us, and just like every single detail Elaine had been across. And that's the thing I think about the film, like just the kind of, yeah, the depth of detail in it. It was just, it just felt like such an exciting thing to be part of. She really wasn't going to do it in a half-assed way. And obviously, you've been developing it for such a long time. It was so important to her to get it right. And that was, I've rarely been in an environment like that where I've just felt like this is so cool to be a part of something like this. Like it was something that was a magic thing finally coming to be, you know, like that felt really special to be a part of, even though I'd just been drafted in the last minute. It was like I felt really lucky to be a part of that thing, because you guys had worked so hard for so long to make it happen. Still one of my favorite jobs. Like,
oh really?
Definitely still one of the best experiences. And just like knowing with Elaine, like how she's her, you know, you had to really kind of like just put your sort of like sensitivity away, because she was so direct. That's just the way that she is. Be like, she's not being mean to you, she's just being direct about what she wants. And like once you got that, like once it clicked into Elaine's style of direction, it was brilliant, because she just was so, she really knew how to guide you as an actor through, like, you know, how to play one of those characters, one of those people, you know.
It made sense to me that you understood the music and you got why it was that music was special, and you felt it flow through you while you danced. Because we all know that you can learn as an actor that beat, yeah, and you can move your arms and legs and do whatever you want, but there's something about the faces. To me, I just don't think some big actor could have got that in time, because there's moments where I've captured both of you in those roles on the dance floor, and maybe they didn't even hit the screen. I don't know, maybe they're on the cutting room floor somewhere, but I looked through that monitor and I was just like, oh my God, this is why I did it. I got this. I managed to achieve this look, which I identify with as getting lost in Northern Soul music, or getting lost in music. There's something about the look that you two achieved on that floor that couldn't have been pretended. It couldn't have been faked. And it was there. I knew it was there. I knew that music was going through you, because you knew the tracks, you know. They weren't just that, you know. So yeah, I've forgotten what the question was now, but
I have as well. I kind of got swept up in that. Yeah, that's the thing, and I'm sure Josh would say the same thing. I think Northern Soul, making that film at the time, felt very special. It felt really important. But looking back on it now, you realise how different that experience was to other jobs that I'm sure both of us have done since. You go, oh no, actually that was a once in a lifetime kind of environment and situation, because we had so much time to plan for it and to get ready for it. And I mean, like, there's no way that if I hadn't had all the time I had to get the accent right and the dancing and everything, it just, for me as an actor at the time as well, I'd just done a few TV bits. I'd done Hollyoaks, do you know what I mean? And I watch Hollyoaks now, I'm like, how did Elaine think I could pull this off? But it was all the preparation, you know. And
yeah, but you were just so keen, you know, and you were so lovely, and I don't know, gullible, but you were willing to go on this
that's probably, yeah,
journey with me to make it work. So don't know. It was just your openness that made it work, really, more than anything. The tracks.
And you drilling the tracks into us and making us learn the songs.
Yeah.
Because it was really all that time and learning it to the point that you know when the drops happen, when there's a spin, and that's a lot to really truly get under your skin. And I remember in the first year just being kind of like, I'm not sure if I can like get what you mean about doing this at a certain point, or like when there's a moment to do a move. But after you really learn the music, I feel like that was a big turning point for me in being able to embody it and dance.
Yeah. I mean, I want to ask you guys a question as well about, like, you were exposed to various different friends of mine who were really good dancers. Which person was it? Because I know you were both involved with Keb and Tomo and Fran and, various other people, Jill. Which one was it that made you get through that kind of fire hole, if you like?
I think
it was Ethan.
Oh, was it? Ethan, yeah.
But the way that he used to dance, I just thought he was so free. I mean, all the technical stuff that I learned, I felt came, from everybody that we had around us and that you guys were teaching, Keb, and Paul, obviously, and you. But there was something about watching Ethan, and I think, he'd been brought up, his whole family were Brent, everybody was, just this, he was so involved in the scene and so current and so young, and his freedom and the way that he danced. I didn't even take just the dancing from him. I took kind of everything from him.
Remember that now, yeah. Yeah, he was
mate, what are you doing? Just kind of it worked for Matt.
Yeah.
Ethan, I remember Ethan on set when we were, I can't remember what the scene was, but we were all driving back to unit base, and I can't remember what it was now, but I was really like, because he made a joke out of my accent. He was like, "Oh yeah, your accent's shit," or whatever, and I was like, "Oh," like coming from him as well. I was like, "Oh, you."
What he would have said as well, regardless if the accent was good or bad, he'd just go,
yeah. I think my person, the person I kind of spent the most time with was Keb. Which, for the audience that don't know, Keb Darge is a wild man. He's got stories that sound like they're from the Wild West, and he used to make me laugh so much. Like he really pushed me to kind of learn those moves, and it was like a grind. I don't know what it was like for you, Josh, but like learning those first few steps was, my brain hurt so much. But he was the one that got me there.
But he taught you. He taught you how to dance to Northern Soul music as if he was a kung fu master teaching someone to do martial arts at a very high level. Wasn't it? It wasn't just like coming in at the bottom and going, "Oh, I'll learn some, like, I don't know, blocking." It was like, you're going Olympic, mate.
He would have me pushed up against the wall, standing against the wall, and he was stretching my leg up to my head. And stretch, you bastard! It's like, you're gonna be able to kick a can off your head by the end of this.
Yeah, his way of teaching was definitely
a bit on your feet, and then go and kick the concrete to get tough skin on your feet so you don't get blisters, and thinking of like kung fu and everything.
Did he teach you martial arts as well?
He made me stand with a samurai sword like this against the wall, so I'd be like that, trying to get thunder thighs.
Oh man, I just remember the first time I met him, Elaine's description of Keb was he's like a panther, he's like a muscular cat, he's like an animal when he moves, sort of thing. And I was like, oh, interesting, thinking that's a bit weird. I met him and I was like, no, I totally get it. Like
muscular.
Like a muscular cat, a bald muscular cat. But I remember the first time he was like, oh, just okay, go on. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, go on, show us what you've got. I was like, what do you? And he's like, go on, dance. Give me your best moves. So I had to just, I don't know, man. It was like, I don't even know what I did now, but it was pretty horrendously embarrassing. But then he was like, I hate your shit. And then he was like, do this. And then he started doing his, like, he was hovering across the floor. And I was like, fucking hell, how am I going to? That's the moment I doubted myself. I was like, how am I going to do this? Yeah, he was funny.
Big no at the start with Keb was and I see it now. If I see videos of when we were first learning, at the beginning, my step was just huge. I was just kind of, dancing across the floor like this, like big wide steps when it will have to be very tiny.
So there was a guy she sent before you, and the couldn't lift one leg without wobbling from side to side. And I tell Elaine, this guy's fucking hopeless. Hope he's a good actor. He's never going to get it. So she got rid of him.
Oh my God. That's funny.
This guy's but he will get it. I said, you're hopeless, but you'll get it.
I remember trying to just get that movement, the kind of just the silky smooth sliding back and forth, and my brain, I remember just thinking, oh my God, I don't know how I'm gonna do this.
Once you get it though, you didn't lose it. It's just a hard fucker to get, as I found out. As most of you go to a bloody Northern Night now and they all skip about like mods. It's like not many folk have got it anymore. You're one of the few left on the planet that have got the proper Northern clickety feet.
What was that? I remember you had like a contraption you used to sit me in, and you used to crank it. What was it? What was it called?
Quando stretching machine. So it's just called a stretching machine.
Yeah.
And it stretches you. You can kick people, but it stretches you so you can dance and all that. It's all right. But you need to keep stretching though, or you'll need to do it. Like you say, you have to. I still stretch. 67, and I'm still doing my stretching. I didn't want to be an old man. I like the pension, but I didn't want to be an old man. You got the basic step, which is the thing that most people haven't got. You got that quite quickly. It was just the fancy tricks, I suppose, took longer, because one, you take a long time to stretch yourself to be able to do them. And some of them are quite complicated. There's only me and a few others that used to do them. So you were learning stuff that's quite unique. And that's the stuff that took time. And getting you to flip legs around your arse, flip over, bang, bang, bang. That took time. The basic step, though, you did well. 3 or 4 months, I think you were doing it. It's just everything that, you learn anything. You can learn tennis. It seems impossible at first, but then if you do it and do it and do it, you get it. Same with that. If you keep doing, you get it. Unless you're a fuckwit like some of those boys that couldn't lift one leg and turn around with the one leg up. They'd never have got it. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to learn to dance the Northern, find some that's a proper Northern dancer to teach you. Then again, all those people that are running these classes on YouTube are going to say, yes, I am a proper Northern soul dancer. But to me, now they're all bouncy and, you don't like anything like Wigan. Elliot looks like Wigan. But most of the ones you see singing don't look like it. They're just, like mods.
I'll take that.
Sorry, mod. Northern people.
So, like, obviously the dancing was a big part for us and learning that, and I remember the accent being a challenge as well. I don't want to out someone here. I don't want to like say something negative, but I do remember there was a moment where I think he was a voice coach, or he was someone that you were kind of getting second opinion from, Elaine, when you were like, go and read the script, and we'd come back and forth a few times. I started learning the dance, and then there was this guy that it kind of came over to yours, and he was like reading the script with me and trying to get the accent with me. And I remember you didn't tell me this at the time because I think it would have disheartened me. But later down the road, you were like, oh yeah, he just didn't think you were ever going to get it. And this was like the first time I tried the accent, and I was really trying. And he kind of shut me down a little bit and was like, yeah, he find someone else. He's not going to be able to pull this off. You kind of need a Northern kid. Do you remember that? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah. But at the same time, I just thought, well, I'm a Northerner. I've still got my accent. And if he ain't doing it by the end of our journey, I will know more than an actor will.
Yeah.
Because I'm the real deal. So I just thought things like that to me were a bit of a like, right, I'll show you. I mean, maybe stupidly on other things that aren't relating to you, that's gone wrong, but on this it went right. Thankfully.
Well, there were plenty of moments like that, and I do remember, like, because it was over a long period of time when we were training and everything, we didn't know if the film was going to get made, we didn't know if the finances were going to come through or whatever. And I remember for both me and Josh, there were moments like where either one of us could have been replaced, but you stuck with both of us, and you championed us, and you pushed to kind of take that risk, which at the time I was really thankful for. But now I look back and I think it was like, you might have not got the film made because of those choices. But you stuck with it, and you cast us both and then surrounded us with names that people knew. And I thought that was such a clever way of doing it. Because I think one of the things you've said in the past is that if you'd cast someone that people knew, say, I don't know, someone of a similar age, kind of big name like Daniel Radcliffe, someone like that, you would just never believe it, because you'd see them and go, well, that's Daniel Radcliffe, or that's whoever.
Yeah.
And the fact you cast two people that were relatively unknown, I thought was so clever, and obviously great for us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a great actor can sort of get into somebody else's shoes and pretty soon convince the audience, but I don't know, I feel like it was such a sort of like, I don't know, how can I put it? There's something about the dancing that I don't think would have worked that way. And I think because this film was so much about the music and so much about the dancing, I don't know. I just look back at these rushes now where I've got you guys doing it, and I just think, God, yeah, that was it. It wasn't about who was famous. It was about who had the time to absorb that stuff and get it through them,
Because a lot of the time, if you actor, there's no way that they would have that long.
No.
There's no way they give you 2 years if it was somebody much bigger. And the size effect and the time, the people that got involved with it when they did, were the reason that we had the time to, and that was something that I then had to learn going on from this movie to become an actor. And, that I was now getting put up for new projects. And, I'd say, so how long are we going to be training for this one for then? So like a year, 2 years? And they'd be like, no, you normally get about 2 weeks, maybe 6, maybe 6 weeks. I was like, what?
It was a luxury that it wasn't by design, it was just by necessity in a way, because we didn't have any money, we didn't have the finance, and we just kept going thinking we will make this film. All right, we sent all these bloody brochures out, and not a single person was interested in putting money in, and it was just devastating. But we were just like, well, we've come this far, we've got to keep going, So I think that in some ways, because of that time that it took to get it to screen or to get it into production, it gave us the beauty of that time to absorb the music,
What is missing from a lot of films these days. I feel like it's not common at all to see a movie that has an unknown in the leads, and it's a lot of the same people getting recycled, and it gets a bit boring, And I feel like when you have those movies that introduce somebody new, and usually that person, they know that they're new, and they're given extra, it's not like Another Day at Work. It's like, no, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, and that energy comes off on screen, I think, because people are really get a lot more passion.
Likely to do that in like world cinema, aren't they, like European cinema or whatever, because of the language difference, because we're making films that are going to work in America because our arts funding isn't that great. So we have to rely on a commercial success, and that's probably why we are circulating these. Sorry, I've noticed I'm getting blown out by the sun here. you know, we have to make these, you know, English speaking films that essentially a sales agent is buying to sell in the States, and that's probably why we couldn't get the funding we wanted or get any you know, arts council or anything behind us, because we didn't have this like star policy with us, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't know whether that's still the same case, but that's how it felt at the time.
You remember when you meet Elaine Constantine, because there is only one. There is only one. And I just fell in love with her straight away. And also she inspired in me instantly this kind of need to give her what she wanted. And to be honest with you, I knew that it was going to be a bit of a stretch for me. I didn't have to audition or do anything for it, which, let me tell you, if I had, I definitely would not have got the job. That's not me being humble. That's me being completely honest. I remember thinking, thank God she didn't ask me to do an audition. And just as I'm going out the door, she went, you can do a Northern accent, right? Truth is, no. At that point, no, I could not. And I looked at her and I went, yeah, of course. And she went, great. And then I leave and I'm thinking, oh dear, okay, I've got to pull it out of the bag. And then that kind of set me off on this fantastic experience of discovery, really, where, you know, I met quite a few DJs, I read up about the scene. I mean, I really went in quite deep. Lose some weight, get a tash, cut the hair, bosh. You know, and I was like, yes, ma'am, and with pleasure. And I gotta say, I've never looked so good. I mean, I look great in that film. You know what? The atmosphere on and off that set, as you know more than anyone, was just like, for me, it was like being in the coolest youth club ever. And I was like the old guy that was just allowed in for some reason. And it was just so cool hanging out with everyone. I mean, it was hilarious, wasn't it? I mean, it was really funny.
No, it was great. And it's funny that you mentioned being the old guy, because doing the maths as well, like I was 25 when we did that film, so I was a lot older than I was supposed to be. But then you were basically the age I am now, pretty much, which is kind of mad.
Right.
Like, you're saying you're the old guy. No, you're not. You're still not the old guy. And now I'm your age. So it's kind of mad, really.
That's bonkers. That is bonkers. Yeah. Wow. Time waits for no one, right? I have to say, you know, I mean, I feel that this film is going to get appreciated more and more and more as time rolls on. You know, it's having seen it not that long ago at the cinema for the kind of screening after 10 years, I was knocked out by how authentic it is, and just how kind of charming and beautiful the performances are, you know.
In terms of how long it took from start to, like, the first time you put pen to paper to the film being released, what was that period? How many years was that?
I can't say. I know it was probably somewhere in the region of 15. Genuinely, from the idea, because I was doing this thing where I was trying to do a Northern Soul documentary in images, and then I was like, this is no good in images, it's got to be in film, because it's so amazing to see it all move. And then I, you know, hired this camera, this big broadcast camera, took it down to the 100 Club, and I was looking through this camera and I was just frustrated and thinking, I'm 10 years too late, I'm 15 years too late here, because when I was in my late teens, there was still this massive energy on the dance floor for a lot of young people still there doing it. And at this point, when I've got this broadcast camera and I'm living in London, everybody's 35 plus, you know, on the floor, and they're not doing these leaps and jumping around, and the music's gone far more kind of underground, and everything about it is not the same energy, even though there's something brilliant and interesting about it. I couldn't have made a documentary that could have given that moment. to show people what it's like to fall in love with this music. I just couldn't have got it. It just would have looked too weird and esoteric. But I think going into that era, into the 70s, and depicting youth getting into it for the first time really, really shows the power of music, and the power of music to kind of define someone's life.
It seems to have, the timing was almost quite good though, because there still seems to be this kind of resurgence with Northern Soul. Like it seems to still be very current, and people seem to celebrate it still. Which is nice. It's a timeless thing.
About it. So the genre Northern Soul, the actual music, was never of its own time. It was always a kind of retro development. Do you know what I mean? So if you think about the sweet spot of Northern Soul music is, when it was created, was around kind of between, I don't know, 65 to 70, the majority of it, yeah. And most of that stuff just never made the charts in America. It just went straight to, like, I don't know, some warehouse and sat there, small pressings, all on 7-inch. The kids in Britain loved soul music because they'd suffered a kind of holding back of that stuff, because the BBC, which was one of the only channels that people listened to music on at the time, in the 50s and early 60s maybe, they didn't play American music. So, all these kind of bands had to do covers of American music, and kids got obsessed with going to America or finding American music. And Northern Soul's a kind of later development of that. So when Northern Soul was massive, if you like, still underground but massive, it was already 10 years on for most of the tracks they were dropping on the dance floor. So it's always been a music genre that has never been advertised. So the joy of that to young people is that we're not being dictated by the charts. The charts, this is us. We like this, that. We're going to dance to that, and it's a more of a DJ based scene than it is anything else. And that is where the DJ really came in, that job came into its own, because that was the first time people were using double decks, the DJ worship, the clapping after the tracks. It was because the artists weren't around. They didn't start bringing the artists over to do the performances till later. And even by that time, the artists were sort of getting on a bit and had forgotten some of their tunes and couldn't believe the look, a bit like Searching for Sugarman. Some of them, some of them were, found living in terrible places, in terrible poverty. And they were flown over here to play venues, thousands of kids, and it was amazing. So yeah, I think it will go on, that music, because it will never be a chart. It will never be chart music. So it's always something you find yourself,
Such a rare little scene, really, to think that the music was, found as unknown music that wasn't really out there, hadn't been released, and then brought to somewhere completely different, and then DJ'd and covered up and all of that stuff. It just doesn't happen anymore. It's not, it would take a very specific set of circumstances for it to even be able to happen anymore, just because of the way everything's developed. There's no records in bins anymore, and like, oh, this didn't make it through the record label, but you can get it at the record store, because everything's digital these days. So all of that stuff just never gets heard anyway.
Yeah, right.
Crazy.
Yeah. That's mad, isn't it, how it's changed? And that's why it was all possible. But do you remember when the moment that you kind of discovered it for yourself? Because I know both our characters, well, my character in particular, discovers Northern Soul, and there's a moment there. Do you remember the moment you first heard like that song that you were like, "Ooh, what's this?"
Oh God, yeah. So there was a massive youth club in Bury at the town hall every Thursday night, and I went when I was 11, along with my older cousin and my cousin the same age, and we were both sort of like, standing around just doing this all night. And then the DJ just decided, oh, I'm going to drop some Northern Soul, you know. I didn't even know what it was, but I just remember this like echoey, like melancholy, but with a hardcore sort of beat with some sort of euphoric moments. And the dance floor cleared, of all our age group anyway, because I was 11. And so I reckon everyone from 11 to 13 just went, oh, don't know what this is. And all these lads came out of the shadows with doing spins and backdrops and high kicks. And then I noticed a couple of girls there as well with these big wide skirts and doing the spins where they're like that, you know. And they didn't look like ballerinas. They weren't doing that kind of all those flourishes and spotting, like, you know, when ballerinas go dink, dink. They just
like
go.
Danny used to.
And it just looked like freedom to me. And I was like, what is this? What is this record? What is it? And I think it was Frankie Valli's The Night. No, not The Night. You Ready Now, yeah? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you remember that, because you ready now, you ready now. And it was just like so full on that and then he followed it with something like, I don't know, God knows. An Edwin Starr record, probably, like Time or something like that. And I just remember going, oh, this is it. This is the thing. Yeah, I want to learn to dance like that. I want to hear this music. This is the thing. This is who I am. Yeah.
I'll say quite a funny thing kind of coming in, and like when you presented this music to us, it's like I hadn't had the same romantic experience of discovering, like, that sounds epic, you know, to be in a club and everyone clears and then this music comes on that you've not heard, and then all these people go boom, and then they start dancing. You go, oh, I get it. Oh, I like this, you know. But then like when I met you and you were talking to me about it, you were telling me about this music, there's this dance, you're gonna love it. And I remember hearing it for the first time and being like, it was almost like I was trying to grasp onto the experience that you'd had, even though I hadn't had that. And it wasn't until probably like a year through of listening and listening and listening, and you testing us and making us really learn the music. And then once the steps started to work, and then I started to understand the dance moves, and then suddenly I was obsessed with it, and I was like, I get it, you know. Yeah, it like took a minute, that was all, because I think I was sort of wanting that same introduction in some way, like I was trying to get it myself.
I have to ask, do you remember, it was the most, for me, it was the most memorable moment in casting for Northern Soul was when Jack Gordon came in to read for his character, which he obviously got. I remember just being there with my mouth open up.
Yeah. This when he brought in something from the bin from outside the bag, and he slammed it down. Oh man, genius. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
It was incredible. And the bin was from the hallway, wasn't it? And you could see that there was like another actor's coat got caught on it, and he was in the hallway going, that's my coat, and he's dragging in the coat in the beanbag.
Yeah, just absolutely 100% committed to it, didn't he? Just committed. No, I remember that really clearly. Yeah, just like, whoa. And I love it when that happens. I love it because it makes me feel like I've done my job really well. And it's not me, it's obviously it's you guys, your talent that is doing stuff. But because I've picked you to come in, I'm kind of like, yeah, look at me, I brought this guy in. No, Jack was amazing. He's such a gun.
I love Jack. I think he's such a brilliant actor, and he doesn't ever not give full beans.
But Jack just kind of came in and made that role his own, and just kind of like, this is how it should be played. And it was kind of like, oh yeah, that's 100%. How I had it in my head. But it works really well. And I think, sometimes the really good directors, they embrace that and go, wow, I see this as a completely new character now. I've lived with this project for years, thinking I knew that character, but now it's something completely fresh and really exciting again. You know, it's like, wow, great. Let's see what else the actor can do.
I remember reading it in the bath, in the flat. And I love reading in the bath because you can't leave. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of, that's what you're there to do, no distraction. And I remember playing the songs on my phone each time in the script it arrived. So I was kind of like going through the script with the first time like that. Do you know what I mean? It was, so before I'd even kind of got into the room, there was something special going on. I don't know why. Do you know what I mean? I don't know
the audition that you had when you came in for the part, and I'll always remember this, and I kind of took it with me a little bit. Like when I went into other auditions, I was like, I got to be a bit of Jack in this one. But like, do you remember that? Do you remember coming in?
Yeah, I do remember it, and I remember kind of remember leaving the room or something, coming back with a dustbin bag or something.
Yeah.
So what, you want me to come in?
Yeah, no, that's a tube, silent tube, yeah. Whenever you're ready. Camera's rolling.
Well, because in the scene you're meant to have a bag full of drugs in a dustbin.
Yeah, and I just went outside, and I remember seeing the other guy waiting, and I just came outside and slammed the door, and then was rummaging in the bin and quickly, frantically looking for something, you know, and then just leaving. So what an experience it must have been for him, you know, like having to follow that.
Yeah.
I've not prepared this kind of atmosphere.
I'm in the right? All the pigs watching my place, aren't they? They ambushed us, they got Frank and Phil. Bastards.
Joking, Jesus.
Well, they're closing on F1, aren't they? I need to stay here for a while.
Okay.
Yeah?
What's the van outside?
It's mine. I borrowed it.
I don't know.
Mate, it was so funny because I remember it really vividly that you came in the room, and as you say, you kind of came in and then left straight away. And we were like, and then I remember thinking, it doesn't really, because I was thinking in my head, I was thinking like, I don't know, like a young Kevin Bacon, like really wiry, like on speed, kind of, that was my image. And I was like, he doesn't really look right. And this is as you walked out of the room, ripped this bin bag out of this thing, came in, it slung it round your back and came in. And I was just like, what the f-? And then you just went straight into character. And we were all like, genuinely, it was one of the best auditions I've ever seen. I was just like, what the f-? Is going on? And then didn't you, you were like throwing up, because in the scene you were meant to be throwing up, and you were like,
something like that.
You were sticking your hands in your mouth, and you were like, bleh. We were all just going, oh, give this man the part, give this man the part.
We trained to dance, didn't we?
I mean, yeah, you didn't have much time though, did you? You had like, I can't remember now, but I had a lot of time. I remember
you had about 5 years.
Yeah.
You had half your youth. I mean,
but you had what was it, like a month or something?
Yeah, I think it was about a month, wasn't it, or 2 months, or I think it was 2 months, because it was a month until the first day of shooting, and then we did like 2 days, didn't we, up in somewhere, and I think then we had like
stuff, wasn't it?
And then we had another month, I think, until we began again. So it was like a month kind of training full on with Tomo, and then Elaine and Tomo just kind of thinking they might have made a huge mistake. And then, like a kind of month on your own with talcum powder in your flat, you know, keeping it all up and running for like another month until we got ready to go to town. It wasn't just dance though, was it? It was like a whole fitness regime they were pulling in, you know. Elaine wandering around and, you know, grabbing your 4 inches of stomach and saying, you know, we need to reduce this down. Ripping kind of jacket potatoes out from your plate for lunch. You're not allowed that. Sit-ups, push-ups, the lot, wasn't it?
Were you doing, I can't remember at the time, were you doing like Insanity or something? You were doing some sort of strict regime, and you lost a load of weight before we shot.
Yeah, we did, yeah. I mean, it was just kind of avocado and rice cakes a lot of the time, you know, and kind of staying up late and just dancing all the time, wasn't it, really? I had a lot of time to prepare, but I wasn't preparing with the script. I was preparing physically with the dance and with kind of what I knew of the script and what I knew of him. I mean, a few lines, a few scenes, you know, can help you a little bit when you're dancing. You can have it in your mind, and you can. I found that Sean easy to find through the physical life of him. You know, he was a physical force. So, yeah, the way I danced, the way I moved, it seemed to get to the stage where you could give me any line to say, and it would it would just come out as Sean. Do you know what I mean? At that stage, because you kind of we found him on the floor. It was a strange process, a little bit kind of usually we go from the script first, I guess, but it was the first time I just threw away the script and let the kind of the dancing and the physical prep kind of take over, and kind of found him through there. Never actually read the script or learned any lines in the end. I just
really
I think you don't know. Of course I did.
I was like, I don't know, mate, because you've got some methods that I just like. I'm like, fair play. You do some things that I'm like, yeah, that's like, you do things differently.
Having you two, Josh and you around, and your dancing level, and I guess some of the other dancers that were around all the time, there was like, maybe 12 of them that were like the key close ones, and everyone had been doing it for such a long time. By the time I arrived, that was such an energy and such a way of kind of connecting, and we were always dancing, and the dancers were always dancing, even in the down times, even when we didn't have enough energy, they were such a big kind of energy support, I think, for the film itself. And just when we did that huge day with 500 extras, with all the kind of the mature dancers, I just remember seeing some guy who had a stick, and then when we were shooting, the stick went and he was just dancing like an angel or something. And it was just unreal how these people really have it in their blood, and in their whole being. And it felt like for that time we kind of siphoned some of that true energy.
One scene I want to ask you about, because it makes me laugh every time I watch it, is when we're in the car and those three guys are there and you have that fight with them, and I don't remember it really at the time, but every time I watch it, it creases me up when you punch them and you're kicking them and you're beating them up and you're going whack, punch, and you're like shouting what you're doing. It just cracks me up, man, because it's just like your character is like just off his tits. Do you know what I mean? It just makes me laugh.
Jumped out of me, but I might have to have another look. I should maybe refrain from making the old noises when I'm.
No, I think it's great because it makes your character just seem like a fucking psychopath. Like,
yeah,
you're doing like the Batman and Robin. It's so funny. There's a couple of moments when we were shooting that. Like, do you remember when the brakes failed in the car?
I do remember brakes failing on the top of the Dales. You know what I mean? Like, in pouring rain. Yeah, I was aware of that. What are they doing to us?
When you were driving it as well.
Yeah. Can you just drive this old car with no brakes? Yeah. No worries. I mean, madness.
And then we came over a crest of a hill, and you're like, the brakes. Makes me laugh, man. I remember the stunt guy basically like, we need to smash up the car so that it looks like it's had a head-on collision with this truck. Do you remember what he did?
No, did he just drive it into the wall or something?
He was there with a hammer. He was trying to bang it, and then he had like a sledgehammer, and it was just getting more extreme every time. It wasn't really working. And then we're doing a rehearsal for the like lines or whatever, and I just hear this, and we're all like, turn around, he's just reversing, he's just like driving it into a wall, trying to smash the front of the car up. I was like, wow. I don't know if this is legal, but
that's the budget. If
it works, it works.
Couldn't afford a bigger hammer.
Yeah, exactly.
Now for a quick break. We'll be back to the episode shortly.
Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/lifeandfilm. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Life and Film Pod. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9-to-5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills, or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone for me was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with Betterhelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, Betterhelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, BetterHelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeandfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeandfilm. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now. And back to the show.
Every scene was moved by the music, by the escalation of your stakes as being part of this scene. So, you know, your understanding of those characters was all part of the fact that you could dance and you could you know, let that music flow through you and you understood it and all the rest of it. But the really weird thing about all of that is that when we did the youth club scenes where Elliot's character John has to be shit at dancing, but he's already learned by the master kung fu man himself as this fantastic dancer who looks like a bloody cobra on fire. Like, oh no, how are we going to get him to be a shit dancer now? Because he's supposed to not know how to dance. Do you remember that?
And you kept on being like, no, just make it like more awkward and I just wanted to be like, I can learn this now. I want to like just want to go for it. But then like, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? That's the good way round to have it though. You don't want it to be like, oh no, he's not good enough to get it when he's meant to be good.
There was a bit of improvisation as well on that part. Do you remember the when we went on the park, those scenes on the park where
with the roses,
hitting different parts of like in upstairs in a pub room or whatever. But I just remember that when Josh, because it's got in the dialogue, hasn't it? Step like me, step like me. Do you know what I mean? And then I remember when Josh did the step like me and the step like me, it broke it down so beautifully that it was easier to do it, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Piece it together, but in a broken way, you know.
Elaine was such a character and so brilliant and just like great fun and had so many brilliant anecdotes. We got on like a house on fire. I remember showing me some clips of Northern Soul. And it was, I mean, I'm a bit young for it. I'm 54, so I missed it. I kind of missed it. But I mean, history repeats itself. So it as you know, it just reinvents itself. So rave culture was Northern Soul. So it's amazing how history repeats itself. So I missed the boat really because I'm just a bit too young for you know the scene, the Wigan Casino, and what was it in Manchester, the Twisted Wheel. That was the big place. I'd say he's a big fan. It's John Cooper Clarke. He's always going on about it.
Yeah.
But I love watching footage. But I also love is the brethren, the kind of camaraderie, the kind of like there is a real gang kind of brotherhood in it, and it's so lovely to see, you know, everyone looking out for each other and kind of, I really love that side of it. Anyway, Joe said Elaine's doing a film about Northern Soul, and it was like I say, it was the year from hell, and I went, she ain't got any parts in it. She went, oh, I could ask her, and lo and behold, she went, yeah, you got the part, yeah. So I just said, because I was like desperate just to do something, you know.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind, man. That blows my mind.
I begged. Cap in hand. Is there anything going? I'll tell you something funny that happened during the film.
Yeah.
The day we were filming in the youth club in Middleton. So I remember, one thing I do remember, because I was on my arse, I was in the best shape I've ever been. And I just about finished P90X DVD.
I remember you.
Yeah. And I had a 6-pack and I was absolutely ripped. And I just wanted to see if I could do it. And I did. And I did do it. And I remember I literally, but the only way you can really do those things is if you've got plenty of time on your hands. You can't, do you know what I mean?
Which most actors have.
Yeah. So I've not really. Oh God! I mean, I was in the best shape of my life, and I remember that had happened, and I was dressed I'd grown. I think goatees were kind of allowed then, but I cut the bit out, so I had a long kind of handlebar moustache for the period. And mid filming in the youth club in Middleton, I got a phone call, and I went, "Listen, I'm gonna have to go." And they went, "Why?" They went, "I've been burgled at home." And they went, "Oh no." I went, "Yeah, it's quite." My wife at the time, I'm divorced now, was in a bit of a state, obviously. And what they'd done is, I think opposite my old house is a bus shelter, and I think they've been casing the joint. And my ex-wife turned up with my daughter Sophia, and she'd fallen asleep in the car. And at the time, there's a sofa in the kitchen. She put her down on and was bringing in the shopping with Sophia asleep. And they put a massive rock through the double glazing at the back and gone up. So they were leaving while Sophia was asleep downstairs, which was just... Anyway, I turned up when the police were there. And I mean, I can see the funny side now, like something from Life on Mars, because I was dressed in costume. Full costume, long tan leather coat and kind of flares and this tash and everything. And they all looked at me like, kind of, what? Hang on, who's this time traveler?
There was quite a few moments of, like, for both me and Josh, like, this was like, holy shit, we're doing a film, and we're, it felt like a lot of pressure. But then also because we've been training for so long, and we've been like, looking forward to this moment, it was like, we're exactly where we're supposed to be. It felt very natural. But actually being on set, there was quite a few moments. I don't know, Josh, if you've got any stories that you could share, but like, I'm trying to think, like, before we started shooting, I remember I broke my hand, my wrist, and some of my fingers, about 2.5 weeks before we were meant to be shooting the film. And I remember just thinking, fuck, have I buggered this? Like, just like completely buggered myself. Huh? No, I didn't. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone until it was done. I was like, and I couldn't do some of the dance moves. There was like a handstand and I couldn't do some of it because my hand was. But I remember thinking, oh, I've got 6 weeks. This is meant to heal like roughly in 6 weeks. And I had a cast on it and everything. And when I'd come to the dance lessons, I remember cutting off the cast and coming along and just dancing and making sure I didn't land on my hand or do anything. Awful. But the worst thing that happened was just before I went for an audition for something, and I didn't have the cast on, obviously, because I was like, okay, and it was for a commercial or something. So it was something I was thinking, oh, I could fit this in just before the film. And I remember the guy shaking my hand, and it was my right hand. And I remember him shaking my hand, and this guy had an iron grip. And I just remember feeling my hand break again. Like, it just healed. Like, it got to the point where I was like, okay, this will be all right. I can get away with this for when we're shooting. And this was beforehand, and I felt my hand just crumble, and I thought, why do I keep making these decisions? But obviously you didn't know that. You didn't know that my hand was breaking when we were shooting, but it was all right by the time we were actually filming. I could get away with it.
Wing it away from me.
Yeah. Had to.
And it happened to me. I was so paranoid of, like, every day walking home, I was like, I'm gonna get hit by a car. Something. I'm gonna fall off the ladder. I'm gonna just feeling like I had to be so careful because the fate of the rest of my. So it felt like, I just kind of didn't want to squander that opportunity after putting so much time in. I feel that every time now, actually, if I'm working towards something that's like a more exciting project, or I get really scared, I'm gonna like trip and fall and break my face, or
oh god.
It's like, don't let anything happen.
I went to meet Elaine, and I met her at the office. We started talking, and then I realised that she was my tutor. She was a technician at Salford University in the photography department. 91.
Yeah.
She was a photography technician, so we kind of knew each other. And I'd printed and developed her stills of the Stone Roses. I was into Stone Roses. So it was like, oh yeah, we do know each other, and you're nice and I'm nice. And so we got on, and it went from there, really, yeah. We shot digitally because we couldn't afford to shoot film, although looking back, I keep thinking about it when people mention it in meetings. I'm like, God, we should have shot reversal. We should have been that brave. We should have done it. Should have shot 16mm. But then it might have changed the whole film, and you know, Elaine wouldn't have got as many takes and wouldn't have had as much choice in the edit. So what happens, and we shot digitally. And we just tried to keep it like reversal film, you know, deep blacks, and the costumes added to that. The set design is amazing, the location's fantastic. I remember, you know, going around with Elaine early on, I think, getting an insight into how real she wants it, was looking for the right type of brick for terrace houses. And we drive in Bolton and Bury and Ramsbottom and all these places around, but it wasn't quite the right type of red brick. And then she found it, and it was commitment, you know, and it was, you know, it was all about the detail. And that's the ease, if you like, isn't it? Because you can, when you work into something that's real, you can look at it, go, well, it needs to look like that. So what, you know, you take it apart, well, it's high contrast. The colours are like that. Why are the colours like that? Well, the street lighting, you know, it wasn't LED street lighting, it wasn't mercury. And I was like, well, what was it? When we were in a bus or a car, and she was like, oh, I'll phone Martin. He'll know, because he took a load of photographs in the 70s, and it was Martin Parr. So she phoned Martin Parr and said, what street lights did I have in, you know, in the 70s? Oh, it was all tungsten. It was all definitely tungsten. It wasn't any sodium. It wasn't orange. It was tungsten. So then we knew what to go with, and that's how we emulated it, because we did exactly what it was like she did with the dancing. It wasn't, you know, 40, 50-year-olds who'd done it before trying to do it as younger people. It was kids doing it for real. So we took that into the lighting and the photography. You know, we had a vision, an idea of how it's going to be, but you never know. You know, you never know until you get the lights with the people doing the thing, the single actor saying the words in the location. You never know how it's going to actually be or how it informs the shooting of it. So we were doing it, we did the crane and we did all this, and Elaine was outside in the foyer bit on monitor and watching it, and then, oh yeah, it's great, yeah, brilliant, amazing, you know, crane sweeping over and other shots, and second camera was there getting other bits and bobs, and I was like, oh yeah, well, but I feel like I went out to her and we watched it back, and like, I feel like you just want to, you know, be with them and get involved and dancing and be part of it, because you know you're sort of standing back on the crane watching it all. And I kind of, you know, we did that because it was quite a big film, and you know, that's what you do when you've got 1,000 extras and you have a crane and you spend the money and loads of lighting and loads of people walkie-talkies. And then I was like, well, what about if we just went in, you know, because you went in through the doors, and what about if we just follow them handheld and then go in there, and I was like, yeah, let's try that. And so we sort of handheld, and we, you know, couldn't be any boom there or anything like that. We just went in with you, followed you in, and then Josh started dancing, and then you started dancing, and then Jack started, you know, it was all, and then sort of just in it with a camera going around and a couple of people and focus puller and boom and all that doing it, and I was like, oh my God, this feels really good. I really enjoy it, but I'm enjoying it. You know, I'm loving it. I'm in it. I'm in the middle of it, and I'm doing what I want to do and seeing feet and doing, you know, going around them, and it's total freedom. But we've got a crane, we've got 1,000 extras, we've got loads of people. Yeah, doing that. What will Elaine like? I went, cut, finished, went out to see what Elaine thought of it, and she was just ecstatic. She was like the moon. She was like, oh my God, it feels like you're there and you're in it and you see it. Can we do it again and again? Can we do it? She loved it. I was like, no, this is brilliant. Elaine likes what I like, and I love that.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to hope that on the first day.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah. We were using old lenses, and they weren't rehoused. They weren't updated. There was still technology from the 70s. So yeah, one did fall off. Well, it came apart on the camera.
Yeah. No, I vaguely remember. I was like, oh. What were the lenses you ended up using?
They were Canon K35s. So lenses of the time, and then also Zoom was a Ingenue 25-250 HP, which was small, we could carry it, and we used it a lot. I'm surprised at how much Zoom's in there, but it's good.
I think rewatching this film, I could really appreciate how well shot it was and how great it looks. You enjoy someone giving you praise, do you? I can see it.
Not really, no.
But,
you know, like that's why I asked about what Elaine thought, because often I see Elaine, she's like, "Oh, just so good what you did on that film," and it was really, you know, the lighting and yeah, she's very complimentary. I don't want to hear that. I want to, you know, hear what she thinks about it now. You know, like going to London, Curzon. It was like Saturday night, and it was quite late, 11 o'clock screening. 10 o'clock screening.
Yeah,
and everyone was up dancing, like in the cinema. And you know, it was just a Saturday night audience, but people had gone not to just watch a film; they'd gone to experience Northern Soul.
Yeah,
and they obviously knew the music. And they were up dancing because that's what the film did. It didn't just tell the story of it; it made people want to do it. You know, like, and that's. I'm so glad that I'm part of that film, part of a film that does that, because that's, you know, like from watching Rocky as a kid and being like, "That want to be a boxer," or you know, those films that make you want to do things, and that's what Northern Soul is. I think it was amazing. We had crap seats at the back. And by the end of the film, couldn't see the screen because everyone was just a bit drunk and having it. And brilliant. Proud of it because, you know, it often pops up, doesn't it, in like the best dance films or best music film. Yeah, it does stand up, you're right.
Because we actually shot this separately, didn't we? The Wigan Casino interiors were shot, I think, was it a week or so before we started?
100 and 1,000 people coming that day. Do you remember?
So we had many. Wow.
Yeah, we had to do these little scenes that didn't have as many people in, just to nail those off, to get them out of the way. I remember going overtime on them a little bit, and Jill came up to me, who obviously my friend from the scene, who was helping me with all sorts of things wherever she could, and she was like, "I'm in that room down there where they all are. It's a big bar. You know, they're into pint number 7, and they're like sardines, and they want to get out on that floor and they want to dance." I remember just going up to Mick Ward, first AD, and going, "It's coming. We've got to get it in here. It's going to be a monster. But if you let it go any further, they're going to be sold."
I love how there was an actual bar, like a live bar where they could get alcohol. That's so funny.
You remember that hot day? It was so hot as well.
Sweating balls.
Even in that big venue, it still stayed boiling hot.
And we ate about 15 bananas each to try and keep our energy up. It was crazy. The endurance. I remember even the endurance of shooting the poster. I remember you're like, "And kick, and I'd be there going, like, it was just the dance sequences when we were shooting them were savage, because it was like, we need to get this right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd push yourself to the point where you thought you were going to collapse.
Yeah, I remember that.
Got the look right, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, the desperate look in our eyes.
Yeah. I mean, if this was now, I'd be cancelled straight away for pushing people to.
Doing the screening the other day, and it being the 10-year anniversary, and having, you know, loads of people there that, you know, love the film, and people that hadn't seen it before that we really enjoyed it. You watch the film now. Well, I watched it with different eyes. I was like, "Oh, I can watch this now and enjoy it as a film, and I'm not critiquing or thinking about what was going on that day for lunch or whatever." And I think the one thing that really, really stands up for me watching it now, I'm like, it just feels so real. It feels like that period, and you believe it. Which with a lot of period films, you're going, oh, those costumes are very clean. But like Northern Soul is like, it's so believable. And Adam, I mean, his work on the costumes and you for years storing up costumes.
Remember Yvonne as well?
Yeah.
Because we had Adam doing the guys and Yvonne doing the girls, because Yvonne had been on the Northern Soul scene in the 70s and she'd made her own clothes, like a lot of girls would make their own clothes. And so she had her and all her mates from the Northern Soul scene making clothes just like the clothes they'd worn when they were teenagers, which was just brilliant, because that just added that next extra layer in there, didn't it? But yeah, I mean, I just was so lucky because I had Robin Brown on sets as well, and you know, that venue was brilliant that Richard Serling pulled for us, you know. Amazing, wasn't it?
Honestly, I only discovered Northern Soul through Elaine, because Elaine's been a friend for a long, long time, way before Northern Soul, when we used to do fashion work together and stuff. Purely by chance, I walked into Elaine's office in Islington, and she was on the little mezzanine upstairs. I was doing something with Marco, one of Marco's photographers, and Elaine just, "Oi, Adam, are you free?" I knew she was like planning Northern Soul. "Are you available?" I was like, "No, you're not." No. She just said, "Are you up for it?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Then it all started rolling, and I met you, and I met Josh, and I met you first, I think, anyway. And that little place in the Queen's Head in Islington, the dance classes, Paul Sado, and then obviously with financing and stuff, it's I don't know what the budget was, but it wasn't big, and so there were setbacks, but that gave us time, gave actors time to get it right, bang on the money, and it gave me time, unpaid time, but to research it and get it right. And so then it was like meeting people like Brent Howarth and all the people up in Bolton and the Wigan Young Souls and all those people. And then it was social media, like I think there's a Facebook group going on, and I was inundated with photographs of people that were there, Wigan or Sheffield or Blackpool or whatever, and that was like literally gold. That you can trawl the internet and look at, but you won't get that from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that's such a lovely thing that there was that support. Like they wanted us to do it right. Do you know what I mean? That's what a great thing.
I'd only done one film before that, so and that was a few years prior. I still was working as a stylist, and I didn't know how that industry worked. I didn't know, anything about continuity or blah, 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 or, and so I was just like going in fresh as a stylist, making sure people look good. But if we shoot like you and Conscious on the toilet floor, and then we go back to that, and you're not exactly as you were, prostrate on the floor,
Yeah, all the stains and whatever.
Yeah. It was a huge undertaking, but looking back, compared to like, it wasn't a normal thing, right? You're normally not afforded like dance classes, and you were in right at the start, and you normally, as you know, you normally get about 3 weeks prep, or for costume designers about 3 weeks prep before a movie, and we were actually quite lucky that there were setbacks and getting fun, the story, but the end result of getting, like, I don't know how many months you were involved in, but I think it's about 9 for me. And so on a low budget film, and it has to, for costume, well, for everything, for the performances, for costume, it has to be bang on, because especially something like Northern Soul, where you've got so many fans, they can jump on any little glitch or mistake or whatever. And there have been some sort of quite howlingly bad films featuring Northern Soul, from films to, like, Lucozade commercials and whatnot. When people heard we were making a film about Northern Soul being written and directed by Elaine Constantine, who was there and knows it, second wave, I got like Paul Smith emailed me, and Paul Smith's guys, because Paul Smith started out in Nottingham in the 70s, and he was a big Northern Soul fan. Peter Worth, although we didn't use Peter Worth clothes, but you remember, like, the bags, many trousers, the Oxford bags and stuff. They for the extras and the essays, we had Peter Worth. I gave him a pair of original Oxford bags, which are the high-waisted trousers with you know them well, with 22-inch bottom flares. Peter Worth just copied a pair that I sent them, and we had like 150 pairs for the essays.
We worked very closely throughout the whole shoot, and with all the every time I came in, you were like, well, I'm gonna have to alter that, or like I remember you being like, you've lost weight again, Elliot.
Elliot, your waist went from a 28 to a 26 within 2 weeks because you were dancing what 8 hours a day or something.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And that for me naturally as well, because I'm like a 31 waist or whatever. But it's I don't even know how that's possible to get down to that now.
Well, dancing 8 hours a day and just living on water and Red Bull.
Bananas. That was it. They just give us loads of bananas. That'll give you energy.
Yeah, that's what tennis players do. That works.
Yeah.
And it for all of us, it wasn't just a job, it was it really was, a labor of love. And Elaine just gets the fact that I would get it right, because whether I'm a Northern Soul fan or not, I have an attention to detail that I won't compromise on. Right, that's pretty much it.
Because we were ramping up to this film for so long, we had that Facebook page. I remember when we did we did like a teaser, didn't we? And it was so heavily criticised, even though it was actually all right when I look back at it. We just got hammered with old Soulies people going, it weren't like that, it weren't like this, it weren't like that. So, I would post every week going, is this something you would have worn in 1973 or 1974? And then people would come back and go, yeah, but it had this detail and da-da-da-da. So all of my crew were scanning this stuff and going, yeah, right, let's figure it out. Can you post a picture of yourself in that? And then it was just like a gold chest of research, wasn't it? In a way, that Facebook page with all the fans engaging in the film before it was even made, contributing their memories and their pictures. That was a brilliant part of it, wasn't it?
You made a book out of all that then, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we made a book which was released on, was it Penguin or Virgin or something? Yeah, it was like more of a kind of oral history of Northern Soul told through various people who were active on the scene, like DJs, drug dealers, just punters, people who were promoters. So we had a lot of that stuff to illustrate the book with, that people had sent us.
Right.
It's like doing a Star Wars film. Like having all these it's like having a fan base before you've even made the film. It's kind of mad, really.
I mean, that's what made it big in the cinema, really. And I think that was down to, this thing that was sucking my money was this dance thing, wasn't it? I was like, every couple of weeks I was laying out a few £100 to get somebody to hire a upper room of a pub, get everyone down who would come, and then just get this dance club going, and then loading those videos up onto like our YouTube channel. It sort of grew the audience in a way where I could never have predicted, because when Universal released it without the cinema release, that they came in and went, no, we're not doing this. We're not having this as a DVD. We want to go to the cinema. We want to watch it all together, like we go and listen to the music all together. So that audience that were already primed from watching the dance club that we'd formed were ready to go and active and protesting, so it was brilliant, wasn't it?
Amazing support.
And I'm not blaming Universal. They didn't know what they had. I mean, we didn't really, did we? How pop would be. We didn't know that it would just blow up in a cinema. Universal were only obliged to give me 6 screens, because actually it was a home entertainment release, which I didn't realize at the time because I wasn't dealing with all of those contracts. And when I realized that they were only obliged for these 6 screens, and that they were releasing the DVD the night before those screens were even going to be booked, it was basically, it's gone straight to DVD, and we at that point then started contacting all our following to say, let's try and get this in the cinema, and then next thing they through this like cinema booker that Universal got a cinema booker in because they realized there was quite a lot of activity online. And so the cinema booker said to us, if you tell all these people to petition their local indie cinema, then we will get a proper release. And like within about 2 weeks' time, we had 125 screens committed across the country. And so it was like, suddenly Universal were like, oh my God, we've got something, It was a bit late to advertise it at that point, so it didn't really get advertised, but it did its job on
3 months or something, right?
Huh?
2 months. It stayed in the cinema for like 3 months, right?
Yeah, and it had 98% seat occupancy, which is amazing.
Mad, yeah.
You don't even have big movies now. I mean, cinemas are dying, really, aren't they, at the moment? But
it's a shame.
I
had just a quick story, but I just before we started shooting, obviously with all the training and everything else, in between acting work, I was working at a cinema down the road from where I lived, and I left the cinema to go and shoot Northern Soul, right? And I remember like being like, oh, I've got to leave, but can I come back? Is there any chance if I go for 6-7 weeks that I can come back to my job? And they were like, and they were a bit kind of annoyed about it, and they were like, well, you're doing what? You're going and you're shooting a feat, what? Like they were like, yeah, okay, good luck kind of thing. And they were a bit kind of dismissive of it. And I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna have my job when I come back. And they were like, well, we'll see, we might find someone to replace you. And it was the best feeling in the world after we shot the film. And I went back and I took the job back up and I was working there. And because the film, as we know, took like 2 years plus to come out after shooting it, then the film got released and it came out and it was on that cinema. No. And by that point I'd left, so I wasn't working there. And I remember going down there to watch it with some of my family because it was still my local cinema. And they were like, oh, can you would you be able to do a Q&A? And like they were like, it was like different management now in this place. And I was like, yeah, I used to work here, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like the best feeling in the world. Like I've gone from doing this job that, I love film and I, being in the cinema, but it was like, it was a job that I didn't really enjoy. And I was seeing all these other actors on the posters and then going back down there and seeing myself on a poster in the cinema that I was working in only years before was just like, it was the best moment because I was like, fuck, we actually did it. We made the film after all this hard work. We all did it,
Yeah.
That was a really great moment.
That's really strange as well that you're in an environment working with people who have no interest in what you're doing beyond the job as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're all like, they were young management and they were kind of working there because it was like a stepping stone job. And a few of them were into film, but most of them, it was just a job to them. So, me going off and shooting a film just seemed like a bizarre, it was like, you're doing what? Like, just a bizarre thing, really. But
making it up.
yeah. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? That sort of situation where you're like, oh, we did it. And after shooting the movie and seeing how well it did, like you said, with all the screens and everything else, and then being nominated for BAFTA and all these other awards, it's that kind of crazy thing where you're like, oh, this is it. This is like what it's like to make a film. This is what happens. And then you go off and do other jobs and you realize, oh, it's not as easy as that. You do good jobs, you do bad jobs, and this one was really special. But hindsight is a beautiful thing.
Being my first ever project, it really set the bar quite high in terms of experience and feelings and thinking you're always going to make a family and thinking you're always going to like have this magical time. But I don't think I realized at the time that I was also experiencing, oh, like this is like my first time. This is always going to be more special than everything. And kind of everything I've done since, I've always been comparing like, oh, how's the family on this one? Have I completely lost my, am I lost in the land? Am I, magic is this? And nothing's ever really been, nothing has ever been the same. I've had nice experiences and there's been some really special, movies and one or two, but it's always been so different.
Yeah. Well,
it's the
I
build-up,
haven't done anything since that in terms of that sort of thing. I mean, I did the New York Times where I was working with all those celebrities and doing those short films, but
was that 9 Kisses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I went almost straight from the success of Northern Soul and was sort of straight into that, and that was fascinating. But it obviously wasn't anywhere near the same sort of level of I don't know, intensity. But after that, I, started writing more scripts, and I've probably written 4 or 5 scripts now, and nothing has come off the ground, so maybe I won't ever do another film. No, I mean, funnily enough, I had Antonia, lovely actress who played John's love interest, Elliot's love interest, Angela, and she DM'd me last week saying, can you please do a prequel, because nothing's ever been the same since that, and I think you'll have a lot of support in the industry. You did a prequel. I was like, I said never again, but I was actually like,
that's funny because she messaged me as well, and she was like, did you mean prequel or sequel? She was like,
sorry,
oh yeah,
it can't be a prequel because then you guys can't do it. Otherwise, we'd have to do loads of CGI, and that's not the thing, is it?
Be like The Irishman, really bad the aging.
When the movie came out, we were talking about it, saying like, oh, we'll have to do one 10 years on.
Were we? Oh yeah, we were actually. Yeah.
Actually go to Philadelphia, or they go to Detroit.
Yeah. I was speaking to someone as well, because like Elliot said, I couldn't watch that film like sort of 3 or 4 times into watching it at screenings back in the time it was released. I had to stop watching it because I was taking it apart in my head, every scene. I was like, oh, I should have done it like that, should have done it like that. Anyway, I somehow rid myself of all that stuff this time round last week when we saw it at the screening. And I actually found myself thinking, I don't know what scene's coming up next. I'm going, oh, what's the story then? Right, okay, right, okay. Oh, right, it's that story. And it was enough time passed to be able, like you say, be able to watch it almost like a normal person in a cinema, make that film to watch it. And I thought, oh yeah, it's pretty good, but it clips along too fast. And maybe I should do a director's cut where we see more dancing, because if you think about it, like, for the amount of time that you lot prepped, it doesn't even show 1% of the stuff we filmed or what you can do. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, God, yeah, how about doing a director's cut and adding about another 20 minutes to it, let it breathe.
Why not?
That'd be great.
There's because there was a few bits cut as well, wasn't there? I remember there was a moment with Josh's character where he like try and commit suicide or something. It was really dark.
It went from when your character dumped him to him just being completely desolate and depressed. But we had to cut that out because we just couldn't sell it. I mean, do you remember it was sitting there cut and finished for 2 years and no one bought it? No, it didn't have an audience,
Man, isn't it?
Until we got it in at 100 minutes. Universal and a couple of others were looking at it then. It was more saleable at 100 minutes than it was at, I don't know, 110 or whatever we cut it at.
Yeah.
It was just a pleasure every single time material just arrived, and we were all working really fast and really hard, and you could just, the feeling that came off the footage was just amazing, from day 3 onwards, whenever it was, every single day, and so it was just amazing. It's one of the few times where there were bits of story issues, or there's bits of stuff that you're going to have to iron out and all the rest of it, and the first cut was over 2.5 hours long, and you're like, well, this is too long, so we're going to have to work out ways to compress
2.5 hours long.
Which is not abnormal,
but
you knew there was no way the film should be that long. It wasn't going to be an indulgent film. It needed to be really slim and concise and sharp and vibrant, and so it had to be kind of feel fast, even if it wasn't fast, right? And then it just became a process of, honing in on, I think the thing that it really nails, which was the thing probably I got the most out of, maybe personally, when I was working on it, and which, comes from Elaine as well, is what it feels like to be young, and what it feels like to just be into something, whatever that might be. And I wasn't, I knew a bit about that scene, but not a lot. I was into different scenes, if you like, when I was younger. And just to be kind of plunged via Elaine and the material into that really singular world was just incredible. But I absolutely did have a belief that it had something and would be liked. And we would, we had no budget, but while we were editing, we would do these little internal screenings, usually just for friends, and I would try and bring in friends and associates, people who trusted, just to get kind of almost random points of view, which was kind of really interesting. Oftentimes it was about who, which of the characters, fundamentally, actually, one of the things we wanted to know is which of the characters do you find the most interesting, and that would help us just kind of focus little bits and pieces. It wasn't so much about, plot. It was more about the feeling, because we were working out some of the story stuff ourselves, and trying to, leapfrog certain things and get it right. But then, it was a 5-week shoot, and it's like an independent film. So then you edited it for 10 weeks. So it's not very, very long, But then it kind of went really wrong, because basically then the company that they had associated themselves with to finish the financing of it just went liquidated. That's a kind way to put it. And I was thinking about it this morning. I was trying to think about what my vivid memories are. One of them is having to go into the company where we were editing. Some people who worked there were good friends, and they were all facing unemployment because it was all folding. And I had to go in and pretend to get something from my cutting room under supervision from the manager in order to steal the project out. And because I had been a very rigorous assistant in my young career, I had done backups of everything, so I knew exactly how to keep the footage safe, and how to keep the project safe. So I'd already done all of that work with my assistant on the shoot, and I just needed to get into that room with a USB drive to go get the latest cut, because I maybe hadn't backed it up the previous week or something.
Wow.
And I knew a way to access it that they didn't know I knew. And I got into the room pretending to get some files, and my USB drive took the file, see you later, because I knew we couldn't trust them, and I knew they were never going to release it to us, which is exactly what happened. And if we hadn't done that, the footage would have existed, but you probably had to start from scratch, I suspect. So it was just silly, silliness. And we managed to pull it out. And then I was trying to think of what the timeline was, but it was definitely like another year, I think.
Yeah, it was quite a long process, wasn't it?
As we managed to get the actual final film together, like bit by bit, through favors and through recommendations. And then there was, one guy particularly helped us bring it together. And then you get into a place where you then have to start trying to show it to distributors. And, Elaine and Debbie know all about this, obviously, but it was excruciating, and there was no clear sense that it would ever come out. So when it did, I remember the Friday it came out. I mean, we'd had the premiere, I think, the night before or the week before. I forget when the premiere was.
Yeah.
When the reviews, I remember listening to the Mark Commode's review on the Friday and seeing them come in and going and buying the papers and newsagents, seeing mostly 4-star, and a load of my friends across the country I had said, like all of us had done, I'm sure, had said, you really need to go see this weekend. And
we were bribing everyone.
Yeah. And I know a load of people who went in various, Midlands up north, and in Belfast as well. And it was all sold out. I remember every single one of them coming back with exactly the same thing. None of them had seen the film before. And I think we broke the top 10, I believe, the opening weekend, as I recall. And suddenly it was like an industry story. And the only shame about it was that it hit its ceiling quite quickly, just because it didn't have a wide release. But, you know, it maintained amazing word of mouth. And so just as I only emphasize all of that, just because it was so gratifying to actually see it be received, you know, which I've worked on a couple of other films in particular that I regard as really very good, but which didn't even get anything close to the exposure. And I think they might have had a chance, you know, if they just had a push. But there was something about this one that, partly because the quality of it, but also the nature of what it's about and the fact that it was plugged directly into a scene, just gave it a life, you know, or had the potential for it, you know.
100%, yeah.
And it still turns up on, you know, it's still on iPlayer, as I'm pretty sure it's on iPlayer right now, in fact.
Yeah.
I think
I always get texts.
My mum told me it was on TV on Friday night. I think it was the week before last or something, like 11:30. You know, I like the idea of people actually watching a film on TV at 11:30. I don't know if anyone does.
Yeah.
Because I used to a lot. But yeah, I'm immensely proud of it.
I mean, that story about the hard drive as well is crazy. I never knew any of that. I'm glad I didn't know any of that. I think I would have been
it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
We were very, very clear. If honestly, I'm not saying that I'm the hero of the hour, but I am saying if I hadn't done my job properly, I'm not quite sure where the film would be.
Yeah, no, that's mad. That is crazy.
I remember we got it through a friend. We managed, for example, to get it to, well, I don't know if we got the film to them. We managed to get through to the then head of the London Film Festival to go, please, 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 is there any chance? I don't know if we had a distributor. I can't remember. And it was a big fat no, you know, quite a fast big fat no. And there were lots of
I remember hearing this from Elaine, yeah.
And there were lots of big fat no's along the way. And then, you know, then it comes out and everyone goes, oh, fantastic, well done, and brilliant. You know, and you're kind of like, well, it's the same film. It was always the same. You just needed to sit and watch it and have a think about what value it had. You know, it obviously had tremendous value. And tremendous, like, I think it's just the enthusiasm of it that and it comes from all of us, from Elaine as the center. But we're all expressing it through the film, you know, every single person on it. I mean, everyone I worked with, from right to the end of it, you know, there was no kind of there was no cynicism in it at all. You know, it's all there and it's all being expressed and it's all being maximized, I think. And that's why it has this energy. If you boil it right down, and this is the thing that I was just trying to kind of grit all the way through it, it was about how you just plug directly into the idea that you're there and that those characters are there and that they're listening and that they're feeling and that it's like a heartbeat. And that was the thing that I was like fully focused on the whole time. So through every moment and every scene, and especially the dance scenes and especially the montages, you know, there is a world in which you could screw it up, basically. And all of us could have screwed it up, individually and collectively. But I think we actually all managed to get it bang on. You know what I mean? I think that was everyone working in the same direction.
The scene where we find the cover up, I put the needle on it and it bumped and went across the record, and I could hear everyone behind the set go ooh like that.
And you know what? Those records, they were really expensive then, like, because they're so rare.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been worth a couple of grand, but now they've gone up exponentially. Do you know what I mean? They're
really?
Ones that were worth a grand are now worth 10 grand.
Oh, wow.
From 10 years on. It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, that is mad.
Yeah.
Sure,
now.
It's a rich boy's profession, that DJing business.
Yeah.
Yeah, to have the originals like that's crazy.
I mean, a lot of people can't break into that now because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
It's records that have been selling to each other rather than coming from America out of a dustbin or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I should jump off in a minute and let you guys talk, but I would say I think what was really interesting for you guys on a journey with me was about the workshopping that we did with various different parties, and talk about that maybe. Back to that.
I remember you bringing in all these different people, and we were doing all these, like, it was like pretty nerve-wracking. I remember thinking, Jesus, any time now we're gonna get found out and get replaced.
Or being trapped here my whole life. And I just
back.
You're a fucking shit DJ with fuck all records. And even if you had a good one, you wouldn't fucking know it.
I couldn't see your face then, Elliot. Go again.
Get me up. You're not gonna stay. Let's go. Come on. Get up there.
I'd like to see you get up there and dance. Northern Soul.
Talking to me? I don't even know what fucking Northern Soul. I don't dance, I'm a fucking bloke. I shag. Dance. So fucking that I see out on Friday and Saturday dance. Are you gay?
If you dance,
Are you gay?
No, I'm not.
I can stop a bit of puffing in that, yeah.
If you can't dance, you can't shag.
If you what?
If you can't dance, you can't shag.
Favourite Northern Soul song? I could give you 50, I can't give you one.
My favourite record is it's called This Won't Change by Lester Tipton.
I Really Love You Baby by the Tamangos.
It's called I'm Coming Home in the Morning. I Surrender by Eddie Holman. It's a cracking track.
Ronnie and Robbins, As Long As You Love Me.
Rita and the Tiaras, Gone With the Wind is my love.
I remember when I first heard it, I sort of stopped in my tracks.
My favourite record, without a shadow of a doubt, is The Precisions, If This Is Love.
You get kind of tingling down your spine and the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. Look, he's a great bloke. He's going to Wigan tonight. Fucking he's going to be playing. Hey, he said you could go with him.
For me to let me be in the movie because I got to touch my mum in a way, you know, it's really beautiful.
And that whole dynamic in that house that they dressed so beautifully. I remember being really nervous because, you know, it's you and Christian McKay and I'm there like...
No, but we were nervous because it's always like people who are getting a bit older are always thinking, oh my God, we're not as quick as the younger people, and the younger people are thinking we're not as knowledgeable as the older people. Yeah. So we can all learn from each other, can't we, really?
We did a couple of like rehearsals in a pub in I think it was...
Oh, that was really nice. Was it in Islington?
Yeah, Islington, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, that was really lovely, and we went upstairs and I think everyone was quite nervous.
Yeah.
I could not met each other, and you always assume that everyone else isn't as nervous as you are. We're all exactly the same, no matter how young, old, talented, whatever. I think if you're sort of quite good at what you do, you're always in yourself a little bit, aren't you?
I think that's part of it, though. You've got
it's
that's
like
part
the
of the
syndrome.
No, definitely. And I mean, to put into perspective as well, I think we were all ourselves, but then you got to think of Elaine, like years in the making, like that first day on set, suddenly directing this film, which she's obviously got so much experience doing photography and everything else, but when you've put so much effort and love and time into something, that must be
it's a big thing. It's
huge.
She didn't compromise, and I love her for it, because I would like to think of myself as that type of person, you know, that you go along in your life and you have integrity. You're born with integrity. Keep it. Keep
hold of it. Keep hold of it.
I feel really, really privileged to have been part of a movie that really, I think, for the rest of time, really, will be a document of that time. And it is so true and so real and so what it really was. The northern thing, the whole way of life, everything about it. And she nailed it. And she, when you're trying to complete a whole journey and get to the end of it, it's like a steeplechase. And there are hurdles and hurdles. And she jumped every one of them. And she didn't listen to anyone on the outside. She just did it, and she was steadfast. And it's incredible what she came up with and what the end result is, because it is an amazing documentation of our time.
Do you know, when you look back at 10 years already, and you look back and you think to yourself, well, that's a good story, but did it happen, or have I misremembered it? And so, as I remember it, Elaine's father, Sam Fletcher from Bury, and my grandfather, Sidney Granger, they were plumbers together.
I never knew this.
Yeah. They were plumbers. They were plumbers together. In fact, Elaine sent me a bill or an invoice for a new bathroom, very posh back then, that they worked on together. And anyway, the story goes, as I remember it, Elaine was getting the film together, and lovely Sam Fletcher turned round to her and he said, hey, Elaine, you doing that film? And she said, aye. And he said, well, you should get Sidney's grandson, he's an actor. And she went, oh, is he? Right. And she said, what does he do? And at that moment, the television was on, and there was a trailer on for my Orson Welles film. And he went, that's in there. Now, I'm looking back, I'm sure Elaine told me that story, because how else would I have got that story? Yeah. But it's neat. Yeah. And, if it's not true, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
I like it, and we'll use it.
I have to thank plumbers from Bury for my involvement,
That's amazing. That's so funny. I remember as well when we first heard that you were potentially attached to the film, and I was working on Hollyoaks with Ashely Taylor Dawson at the time. And obviously you have a strong connection to him. And I was just casually telling him, I was like, Christian McKay is hopefully going to be in Northern Soul. He's like, really?
I'm surprised he go, who? He's my sister's partner.
Yeah.
And, for years, it was, of course, you were on Hollyoaks with him.
Yeah.
I turned round to him and I said, I think I've got you a chance for a feature film. And he went, no, I'm already on that. It's Elliot. And I said, no, it was me. And I said, no, it was Elliot.
That's so funny. Fighting over the who got in the job.
Introduction.
Yeah.
And
so funny.
I said to Elaine, I said, tell him it was me. She went, it was him.
Coming onto set and specifically doing the scenes with you, Ricky Tomlinson, and Lisa Stansfield, and going to a room with the three of you was pretty intimidating for me.
I wasn't into Northern Soul or anything like that, but I was aware of it, growing up. And Elaine just asked me if I'd do a day. I think I'd do a day, maybe 2 days.
Yeah, it was a day. It was a day. Yeah.
I was 10 years. Yeah, so I think I was en route to the lakes, which is where I am now, because I sometimes come up here. I sometimes come up north to escape, to top up my northernness and escape from, so I don't become too much of a southern softie.
Fair enough.
So Elaine just said, would you do this cameo? And I said, yeah, because she's a mate. And it was interesting. And I'd seen all the I think I'd already seen some stuff she'd shot with how the detail, how she rendered that Northern Soul scene, I think is amazing. In the finished film, your performance and the actual rendering of that scene seemed so authentic and real and visceral. And anyway, but I'd already signed on by then anyway. I just thought, oh, this is great. This is obviously going to be a good film. And I like her, Elaine, because she is creative, but quite working class. And that's always a really good combination, because I feel if you're too privileged and you're creative, what you have to say can be limited often, or certainly lacks accessibility. You can be avant-garde, but to me, the good art has to communicate, and she has that ability to cut through things being rarefied. There's a sort of an authenticity to Elaine. I knew she was working on it for a long time, and but she was just a mate of mine. So I mean, she's a friend before she's a creative collaborator. I talk to her about stuff. I talk to her about, and I always have done, about anything I'm doing that's creative, and we talk about ideas, but we've never actually collaborated on anything apart from this. And it's not really a collaboration. She cast me, but I think I just played one of the teachers that I had when I was at school. You know, when I was at school, teachers were. They were less constrained, and some were good and some were terrible, but it was kind of luck of the draw what kind of teacher you got. And a lot of teachers were quite sarcastic. That was just a general modus operandi they had. And so I just did one of those teachers who, most people ended up as teachers, certainly in those days. I think, unless they were, very few were vocational. I think a lot of them were just people didn't have a particular direction they wanted to go in, and wound up as teachers by default.
For us, we'd obviously been prepping for ages, and that was a big day for us. You coming on and doing that part, and it was pretty nerve-wracking, I have to admit. And you were kind of throwing all this ad lib at me, which I absolutely loved. But there was a problem with me. I was trying not to laugh half the time, and I was there like trying to be really serious about my part. And then you'd come out with, I remember your line about the fire door, just completely throwing me off. You have a line where you're like, "That's a fire door," and I'm like trying to rage out of the room and kick the door open. And luckily the camera wasn't on me; it was on the back of my head, so I had a good laugh. And then by the time I turned around to you, I'm trying to keep a straight face. It was good. It was good fun.
Yeah, well, that's the nature of improv. Is that you sort of use what's around you. You know, if you want it to sound authentic. And I remember I used my car. I had my car up there, which was period. I had a period car, which Elaine asked me if I'd park in front of a new car that had parked across the playing field, because it was not period correct, whereas my car was. So
I remember this. Yeah,
I parked my car to block. So there's a shop where it was very nice. I don't have it anymore, but I did. It was a very nice car. It was an old Aston Martin, and I parked it to block out the other car.
Yeah, I remember it being it's kind of in soft focus in the background, because I guess even though it's the right period, would it be necessarily the right sort of car?
Probably not. But I mean, it's better but it's conceivable. What is not conceivable is to have a car from the 2014 in a film set in the 1970s. So it was the lesser of two evils.
There was a funny moment with when you were getting your makeup done in the trailer, and obviously that one day everyone was aware that you were on set, and my friend who was an actor at the time was in there getting his makeup done with you. And I mean, you probably don't remember this, but it was a moment for him, because he was quite nervous that you were in there with him getting his makeup done. He got up and he slipped and fell down the stairs of the trailer.
Go completely flying down the stairs, and all I remember is being completely flat on my back, like a proper run down the stairs, boom, 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 and like I've got like this school bag on, like blazer, and I'm just completely there. I'm like, and I'm just there lying there, and all I see is Steve Coogan with like half a makeup thing with his hair like really long, looking down, being like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fine." Oh,
The
so
fact that we was
bad.
all meant to like pitter pat around him, and you go right down the stairs.
Mate, what was it? Didn't they call on the radio so that a school kids hurt themselves?
Yeah, so unbeknownst to me, so I sort of get myself off, dust myself down, bright red, and then these paramedics come like running round, like really serious, being like, "Oh, we've had a school kid's fallen down the stairs and like really hurt themselves," and I'm looking around going. And then, like, the cogs are turning, and I can hear people saying, like, "There's a child hurt. We can't find them." Like, it's getting really serious. And then I remember, I think I said it to you, Danny, because you were sat in front of me in that scene, weren't you? And I was like, I think they're looking for me. It suddenly dawned on me.
He's like 24 at the time. I don't know if you were probably just getting your makeup done. But yeah, there was this whole thing where everyone was looking for this mysterious child, a school child that had hurt themselves, and it was my mate in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
You got any charts?
Oh, I've got loads of soul.
The workshops we did, again, that was like something that that I kind of always expected going into other jobs and never got. And so I've actually, the whole learning experience that we had on that movie, we had Paul Sado kind of taking the mickey out of us, trying to make us cry, trying to break us down, put you in the hot seat, and then he's kind of, right, stay in character and defend me. What are you wearing them shoes for? What do you listen to that record for? What are you doing that for? What's wrong with you? You look like an idiot. What's you just like totally giving a shit the whole time.
That's great though, because it prepares you for like any other situation with any other film. When you go in an audition or you go in and maybe you do have to do a workshop or whatever it is, you're kind of like, yeah, I've done this before, it's fine. Like,
yeah,
sort of thing.
I've missed that fear and being forced under the knife almost. In other, no one's ever had like the sort of brute force confidence, or I don't know what the word would be, like the attack on the actors to make us be ready in this like kind of next level way. People don't do it, and everyone's very kind of like, should we just try this little thing, or should we just, I was thinking maybe we could just do a little improv of, this is you coming home from work and you're having an argument, or like, yeah. I've done, but never quite so so intense. And I think like when I've worked on things since, I've always gone back to what would Elaine be telling me to do if she was directing this? What would Paul be doing in the workshops? And what can I do instead of the dance clubs? Like, as in, like, if this is a movie about digging, which I did do one movie about digging, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go to Portugal and I'm going to dig a hole for a week. So, but like, find ways to get the same level of prep in a short period of time that we got for this for 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
I mean, 4.
Yeah. I mean, it's mad, isn't it? How much time. And that is a luxury, really. Like, as you say, you just don't get that with other jobs.
What I liked about working with Elaine was that she was so blunt. And I actually, if I work with other directors now, I'll usually at some point before we start, take them aside and be like, I'd like you to be really blunt with me and just tell me how it is. Like, what do you want to see? Don't think you're going to offend me. And just kind of like, just whatever it takes to get the point across. Because like sometimes my brain takes a minute to absorb things. So I think the way that Elaine was so blunt with us always really stuck with me. Like, for example, there was a time I was sitting there like this on set and we were about to do a take and she goes, "Oi, mate, you're sitting like a sack of shit. Do you want to look like a sack of shit on screen?" Sitting like that, you look. I was like, all right, okay. I was like, cute that I understand what you're trying to get across now. Thank you.
That's why her methods as well, having been like a photographer for years, is a different thing to being a director. So she had a unique way of coming at it, but I think that's why it worked so well. As you say, blunt. It was just like, don't do that, do this.
Yeah.
Like, which, for me, especially like one of my first jobs, I was like, yeah, cool, great. That's what I'll do then. But yeah, man, I think it's so long ago.
I've never had another director slap me in the face before a take. Want to slap? Do you want to slap? Yeah, go on.
Yeah. There's a little I can't remember what the video is called. There's a little behind the scenes thing, and there's just a montage of me being slapped by various people. Like Jack, I think, like Elaine, like Paul, like always just before the takes. Like, come on. It's just part of it, you know.
Well, my introduction to Northern Soul was through you, kind sir. From years ago, we used to work together on a show called Hollyoaks, and I actually remember doing a little scene with you, and I think you were really struggling. I didn't realise at the time, if this is right, you're dyslexic. And you told me that, and you said, I'm just really, because they used to throw lines at us and scripts at us, and you rang me one day and said, listen, I've got this role in this film, and they're casting for it, and I think you should go, you know, come along and come meet the director and have a casting. And I said to you, that's really sweet. And you said, well, I'll never forget you helping me on set. So that's what, you know, what goes around comes around kind of thing. And then the actual casting, which was, you know, a little read through, where they just played around with the role, and it's playing Paul, the older brother of Matt. And yeah, and I got it, and I was buzzing. I was so happy. And I think at the time she said there was a chance to play a bigger role, but obviously with doing Hollyoaks, that wasn't a possibility, which was like dangling the carrot. But yeah, I was just so happy to be a part of such an amazing film, you know, with great people. And I thank you for that, kind sir, even though my brother-in-law, who ended up being on it as well, will always quote,
I think I've got you a chance for a feeture film. And he went, no, I'm already on that. It's Elliot. And I said, no, it was me.
You all know that's nonsense.
Well, I love that. And that's funny. Yeah, you mentioned the whole, there was a real moment for me doing Hollyoaks, and I think it was quite early on. And I just had you know, every actor has that moment. And it's the only time it's really happened to me that bad, where just I couldn't get the lines right and we were on set. And I remember you taking me to one side and being like, it's all good. Just chill. You need a moment. Just take that moment and then like, relax. It's all good. And like really, like if you hadn't have done that, I don't know what would have really happened. So I always remembered that. And so you know, when there was an opportunity for this, I was like, yeah, why not? And I love the fact that you came in and they gave you a wig and like they made you look really
just flooding out the other side.
And I said, have you been anywhere? Yeah, mate. I'm with a fucking building.
I think we might have given it away. But...
I think you and Elaine, from memory, went on like This Morning, or you went on like Breakfast TV to promote the film. Was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was now. But and it went viral because you were wearing a chain around your neck.
Oh. But with written on it. Yeah, well, as you get older, you have to be naughty in sort of pathetic ways.
Everybody just connecting with their love and their passion for this music.
Dark music, uplifting lyrics, banging beat all the way through.
That sort of feeling when you know you're in mid-spin or mid-trick. There's no comparison feeling in the world.
That's what I'm here for, you know, like those moments, hearing them songs. Yeah, it's really special.
And then the next thing you get are these haunting lyrics.
When I'm hearing the track, it gets into my body and my mind and my soul, and I want to do nothing else but dance.
2 minutes where I can be myself and can get into the moment and just lose it.
It's such a tight, exciting rhythm. It's like machinery.
But music don't get made like that anymore. You know what I mean? With that kind of emotion, that passion in his voice. And that's like, just feel like connected with him.
And that, for me, is what Northern Soul means. It's like, it's no nonsense. And it's getting down to the point. You just hope that it will last forever. You want to be young forever. You want to be able to do this for the rest of your life.
Elaine just said the sweetest thing. She said, you know what? You just f***ing get it right. You understand.
For a first-time film, her getting that budget and having that cast and stuff was like amazing, wasn't it? Like really
mental,
thinking about it, like I look back and I'm like, didn't know what we had then. Like really, well, I'm sure you did, but I definitely didn't.
That level of like artistic endeavor
attention to detail and immersiveness. It just elevated it.
All emanating from that huge heart that is Elaine. Just to see her kind of literally on fire, like firing on all cylinders all the time, and for that to be her debut as a director as well is astonishing. Actually, I think like that. It's a knockout movie.
Yeah. But it was great. It was really a lovely atmosphere she created. She got a superb crew. They were really. It was joyous to work.
Well, I was just a little tiny pawn in it, but I'm so proud of that film. I think it's wonderful.
I mean, I thought the film was great when it came out. I thought it was a great what she'd achieved with it. It was really very, very good. And I'm glad it turned out the way it did. And, I'd work with Elaine again in a heartbeat.
This was a godsend. Northern Soul was a godsend.
I think it's terrific.
It's just a really good team of people. I think it's probably the best rap party I've ever been to.
And it's incredible what she did. And I think everyone, yourself included, maybe not me, but it was just amazing. And everyone's heart was in it.
And it was a kind of moment in time, but it felt magical.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now. Thank you to all our wonderful guests, and as always, thank you to our sponsor, Betterhelp.
All right, love.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time.
It's equal, yeah.
Yeah. I messaged Antonia and I was like, well, I'm up for it if you are.
I think we're all in, aren't we? Why would you not?
Yeah. You better get writing then, Elaine, otherwise we'll be like...
I'm on it. I'll do it in the now.
Thank you for coming to the 10th anniversary screening of Northern Soul. How many people have seen it before? Quite a lot of people. I'm Chris McGill from Rebel Real Cine Club. I do pop-up cinema all over the place. I think last time I was here I did Jubilee on the Jubilee, which was kind of fitting and fun. But I kind of have always loved Elaine's work from when she was a photographer. And still as a photographer, still working with Dior, Aries, everyone from Adidas to Vivienne Westwood. And I saw this film and loved this film, and I loved the way that it spoke from Elaine's heart and from Elaine's kind of personal experience. And so I asked her if I could screen it, and she said, we'll get Elliot along. And then she said, well, Josh will come along as well. And then Freddie's in the audience as well today. Is it Adam with the costumes? I think he's here too. So it's like a proper reunion. It was 10 years ago that the film came out.
That the film was complete.
The film was complete.
It sat on a shelf for 2 years looking ridiculous.
Yeah. And do you want to tell us how you guys met and how old Josh and Elliot were when you met them and sort of part of the process of making this film?
Thanks for exposing me as the norm. Elliot was 19.
12.
And Josh was 21. Yeah. 22? 21. So Elliot worked with me for 6 years on it beforehand. Josh too.
And that process of 6 years was like something else, wasn't it? Do you want to like...
Well, it wasn't like
Kevin,
I came and said, come on lad, 6 years. Get into it. It was like, oh, we're going to do a film next year. Do you want to do it?
And also, you didn't tell them at the beginning they were going to be the leads, did you?
No.
So it was kind of like they were constantly auditioning.
Oh no, it wasn't quite like that. They were doing workshopping. Oh yeah, I've forgotten that. Yeah.
And so you obviously did like the workshop process. And I don't know if lots of people know this, but there was Keb Darge, who is kind of like a superstar dancer. He did sort of workshops.
Who's that?
Keb Darge.
Oh, Keb Darge.
Keb Darge.
Yeah.
Was like he did like individual dancers, group dancers, and how long was that process for you?
So we had like a dance club where we'd invite several people from the Northern Soul scene to just come along and dance with these lot.
Very intimidating.
And that went on for 2 years, was it?
Yeah.
You were training with this really hardcore Scottish guy called Kev for 5 years or something. And then he got hold of you for a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, I saw him for a couple months after we'd done the group classes.
That's right. But they were exposed to many different Northern Soul dancers, as were all of the dancers, because we didn't want these young dancers to be a clone of one type of dancer.
Yeah.
So we wanted everyone to kind of merge and get involved with different styles of dancing and different little flourishes, individual sort of moves. And so it became a kind of organic dance floor rather than someone who's doing the obvious Northern Soul moves.
And part of the reason that you wanted to do it was because you'd obviously been into Northern Soul.
That's right.
You were obviously too young to go to Wigan Casino.
Very much.
But you'd obviously gone. But you'd obviously gone elsewhere.
Yeah.
And you tell us about like how you wanted to capture that world and why these two particularly were kind of perfect.
So I tried to do a photographic documentary. Once I became a photographer, I went back to the scene and it kind of dragged me back into it. And because I'd been on the scene when I was a kid. And then I was thinking, these people are too old, they can't get that essence, the youth and the excitement of it. So I thought, I've got to recreate it. And that's how I ended up becoming a film director. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I said, oh, I want to be a film director, I just wanted to tell that story.
Yeah, and because your style of photography, which we showed some of it before, did doing those kind of photographic shoots, did that help you in terms of how you directed it? And have you done the music videos then as well?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's funny because when you come to a film shoot, obviously it's very different to a still shoot, but at the same time, I've done that many still shoots with many people moving that it's like I've done the film 100 times before in a way, in some respects. So yeah, it did help.
and were there directors that you kind of like, or films that you kind of been inspired by as well, or was this like a whole new thing for you?
I'd say there's a sort of movement of film like from the 60s and 70s all over the world, anything that was kind of from that kind of gritty realism sort of genre, I was sort of
so like
obsessed
Kitchen
with.
Sink or like New World and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember watching Kes.
Oh yeah, we watched Kes loads.
Did you?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, to get the comedy as well.
And, you know, all things like that.
Oh yeah,
Just to get that sense of
yeah.
what it was to create a British sort of realism film.
And so when you came on, you obviously were a musician and you had done a couple of roles, hadn't you? So how, obviously you said it was daunting, but in terms of the acting and obviously watching them in Kes and things like that, how was that?
Oh, I mean, terrifying. Yeah, I hadn't really had any experience, but I felt confidence just because of our friendship, really. Like I felt like I knew the character that he wanted me to play because I felt like we'd been doing impressions of this guy randomly, just joking around, you know. And it's kind of felt like because of that he kind of lived in me, and yeah, I had a weird sort of.
Yeah, we did workshops as well, didn't we? With
the workshops, and we did that screen test, and it just kind of all came together. But yeah, very daunting for me, really.
Yes.
Didn't know what I was doing, but kind of did.
And how about you, Elliot? You've spoken before about dancing specifically, haven't you?
Yeah, we have a bit of a weird story how we met, because we were doing it was a photo shoot for I can't even think what it was. No, it was before that, it was one before that, and we met, and Elaine just said to me, oh, you look like John Clark, and I was like, okay. And she was like, no, I've written this script, you explained it all to me. And you know, as a young actor coming into the industry, you kind of hear a lot of things, and you have to let a lot of them go. But Elaine came through, and she was like, "Here's like," I think it was a year later, she messaged me, and she's like, "Here's the script." I was like, "Oh wow, she actually did write it." Read it in Pizza Express. I'm dyslexic, so it took me about 5 hours. And Elaine was texting me going, "Hurry up!" And that was like 6 years before we shot the film. So you know, I read the script and thought this is amazing, but then for 6 years I had to be like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And then
and that's the process of then when the film was made and then getting a release. It's like a whole other story, isn't it, as well? Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like giving your newborn baby to somebody who's just going to go, "Oh, we're going to put this on stage," you know.
But I mean, you started your own film company, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because to actually get it made, and I don't know how many people know about kind of like that whole process of kind of like how you basically did screenings. You've got kind of social media behind it. Do you want to say kind of like?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of started the social media before we even did the film because we wanted to sort of entice young people to come and learn to dance. Because at that point, the Northern Soul scene was just full of middle-aged people. There was no young people.
Still is. We're not middle-aged anymore.
Too much young kids to be doing it right, you know. So we had to kind of get this social media thing going first and say, "We're going to do a film. Please come down and come to our club and learn."
So you two were obviously really patient with this as well, because you'd made the film, and then it was like. Years, wasn't it?
It was mad doing something so exciting, especially having not done anything to do with acting before this, never really had coaching apart from the coaching that you arranged for me, but then to have done something that was this mind-blowing experience and then just be kind of waiting for it, knowing that people are going to see it and having a good feeling about it, it's, it was just wild.
Yeah.
Really cool.
What was the question, sorry?
It was just the daunting process of having completed something, waiting for it to come out.
Because what was it, 2.5 years?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, we signed to a major to get it out there once it was complete, and then they told us that it wasn't getting cinematic.
Yeah.
And the just awful thing about that was that everybody who'd been gathering momentum with us wanted to go and see it in the cinema and experience it like an all-nighter.
And I think you said before, Elliot, haven't you, that like people applauded at the end, like just at normal screenings and things.
Yeah, no, it's a very energetic crowd usually. Like when we went to Toronto, do you remember? It was, the people were queuing around the blocks, and it was like, I don't know how many people were in that screening, but it was like being at Northern Soul night. It was mad.
We couldn't.
You were there? Oh yeah, of course you were. I was like, who's that?
Yeah, we couldn't kind of get it moving. Nobody wanted it, and because I worked at the Face, I had a friend called Charles Gant who was by that time become a film critic, and we couldn't get any festivals, we couldn't get anywhere. And
because it went into independence, didn't it?
Yeah, it went everywhere, no one wanted it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a cult film, so people are like, oh, we don't like cult films. But anyway,
No, well,
so
we like cult films.
he sent an email out to everybody else, everybody he knew in the film industry, to say, shame on you, you're all ignoring this plucky British film. Get on it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we got like a BAFTA nomination.
Yeah, well, thank God. And then, like you said, NME, the readers' poll, won the best film.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious that you kind of want to see the film, even though lots of you have seen it before. So do you want to, like, if anyone's got any questions?
Yeah, we're doing the Q&A now.
We're going to, Why not? This gentleman with the ferret, and I'm going to come straight to you.
I managed to saw you. I was involved in the Northern Soul scene way back to the Twisted Wheel in 1968. Well, 1967 actually. So we anticipated the film, greatly. There was in the lead up. There were some trailers that came out that seemed to suggest that there was a subplot about the mainstream media and the BBC and the way that they treated it, which never appeared in the film. And then the release was delayed again, and we were putting stories together in our imagination that the BBC had stopped you and said, you've got to cut that out, or was that just something you decided to ditch?
No, it wasn't. It was just like a bit of a kind of thing, like a teaser, in a way. It was completely separate to the story. Right. But we kind of wanted to have a nod to the idea that the BBC would never play black American music, so we were sort of like, you know, putting it out there that they wanted to cheese it up. You know what I mean?
Was that the teaser we did years before?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Sorry, can I just ask you briefly, when you said you were into the scene when you were a youngster, where was that?
Well, I'm from Bury, so all the youth clubs around Lancashire and in Manchester as well, still going strong then, mid to late 70s. Yeah.
Thank
Can I
you.
just say, Elaine, you completely got it spot on. I was born in York. Well, I was born in Leeds, raised in York. Okay. Brought up in the youth clubs, disco dancing, Northern Soul came on, and it completely took over my life. Moved down to London with Keb Darge and that, and we used to go to the 100 Club, used to go to Blackburn and Twisted Wheel and everything. And you completely nailed the dancing. Like, Keb Darge is the most brilliant dancer, and to have him on board with these, like, because when I watched it, I thought, oh my God, this is what I want to see. This is the Northern Soul I want to see. It's absolutely the best film ever made.